1,000 subscribers, baby. It seems like just yesterday I was saying thank you for 10,000 subscribers. I mean, this channel has exploded. So I think somewhere around last month, around the 23rd, when I look at my algorithm, I can see the channel just skyrocket. I can see the analytics just pop up. It was around like the 22nd or 23rd. It just popped up out of nowhere and went off. And since then it's never stopped. And my videos and my content has become so popular in the automotive field for whatever reason. If people like it or they find it interesting or they just hate it, it's irregardless to me. It doesn't matter. People are watching, right? And I want to help people. The goal of this channel is to be as open and honest as physically possible. My channel, what's going on? My channel has taken off and went absolutely crazy. And I want to help people. That's what I want to do. I want to help as many people as possible. And I want to be honest with people without trashing other names and other manufacturers and stuff like that. I had a guy message me today, and what's going on, King Ben? And he said, well, that's kind of funny because the other day you were talking trash about Chevy. And no, I wasn't. I was speaking about facts. See, as adults, this is where we have to focus on our communication skills. Now, I don't say the proper words all the time, and I may not explain something to the T like an educated office person with 10 years of college and stuff would speak, but I speak normal and I speak hillbilly English, whatever. So people, what's going on? You running? And I spoke about an experience that I had with a 2016 Chevy Malibu with a 2-liter turbo. And it was absolutely disastrous. I was in the shop all the time with this thing. I finally had enough of it. Luckily, the vehicle actually got stolen, and it was a blessing in disguise. I left work at the international dealer. I was working right off of, what is that, outside of Chicago, that big Rush International dealer. Is it Cicero and 55, or I think it's Cicero Avenue in 55. What's going on? And I was working right there, and it was raining real bad one day. We were all getting ready to get off. It was kind of cold. It was like the end of February, mid to end of February. There wasn't a lot of snow on the ground, but it was raining, and it was super, super, super cold out. And I went across the street to the BP gas station. I pulled that Malibu up in front, and I was wearing a sweater, a zip-up sweater. The key fell out of the pocket into the key fob. I'm sure some of you know how big and bulky those push-button key fobs are. Some of the new, like Raptor and F-150, the higher line ones, those things are huge, and they weigh a lot for a key fob. It fell out into the cup holder, and I'm like, I'm not going to worry about it. I just worked an 8-hour, 9-hour shift, whatever it was. I just want my Diet Pepsi, and you know what I'll do for you hipsters and hippies? What I'll do for you guessing the numbers right, is I will send you a Mac tool screwdriver set. It's a bit set, and it's name brand Mac. It's a few years old, and my tool distributor said, find somebody on your YouTube channel because you're always talking about Mac and how good we are and you really like our product. I'm giving you this tool set. It's just a simple DIY in the garage type thing, and it's actually a bit driver set and everything. It all comes with it in a nice red Mac case. I'll send it to you. Go ahead and send me your credentials. Actually, there is the official Ford Boss Me Gmail up, just created 10 minutes ago. FordBossMe@gmail.com. Email me your info and I'll send you the kit. Somebody somewhere was looking out and said, give this to somebody. So I'm going to send it to you. You did guess the numbers. I do remember that. Anyway, I parked the car, the Malibu. I park it in front of the gas station. I was kind of being lazy. I didn't really have an excuse to do what I did, but I just left it running there in front of it. I thought I had the key fob in my pocket secured when I got up, and it fell out. I went in the gas station. I got my Diet Pepsi. I'm screwing around over by the potato chips and stuff. And, I've been on and off the keto diet now for years, and I've lost quite a bit of weight, but I've stalled out. And I'm looking at all the different flavored pork rinds. Pork rinds, they don't have any sugar, carbs. Insulin levels go up, blood sugar levels go up. So I'm trying to keep all that stuff in control. And just as simple as a bag of pork rinds would satisfy me. So I'm looking. I didn't find anything that I wanted. I go up to the register. At the time, I was smoking. I got a pack of cigarettes when I was up there, and I turn around and go back to my car, and I turn around and I look, and I'm like, where's my car? Where's my car? Where the frick is my car? And I'm like, turn around and look at the lady behind the register. Call the police now. The police hurry up. They come to the gas station. They have me get OnStar on the phone immediately. OnStar is talking to the police officer, tracking the people that took off in my car, and they finally catch them just outside of Chinatown. I mean, this was like within 45 minutes to an hour of them stealing my car, and OnStar was tracking it the whole entire time. So they crashed the car. Listen to this. The police officer said when we got there and we seen how bad the car was, it looked like they had ping-ponged off of the exit ramp into the wall, back over to the shoulder, into the wall, back over to the shoulder where the concrete rail was going up the exit ramp to get off. And it was just marks all down this thing with car parts all over the place. And the two girls that were in the front seat of the car were laid out, passed out. And the two that were in the back fled the scene. So the police officers get them So the police officers get all the information on the girls that were involved, right? And the police officer was talking to me, and he was like, the two girls in the back fled because they didn't get knocked out when the car basically crashed. And a lot of comments right now, guys. The police officer got the girls in the front to the hospital. The two girls in the back fled. So let's just say this, I get a rental car, the insurance company's trying to work with me and stuff like that. By the way, don't ever in your life go with Root Insurance. Root Insurance is like the biggest rip-off insurance company ever. When you actually need a claim and you're going through an app-based insurance company, oh my God. It's impossible to get help from anybody, no matter what. I call these guys up, I tell them what happened, I tell them everything that was going on, and I'm like, what the heck is this, man? You guys are like stringing me on. Nobody's helping me. Then they finally help me with a rental car. And then I find out they're not even completely covering the rental car. So then I go to my employer. I tell them what happens, everything the next day. It's chaotic. I'm late for work. I don't want to be in a rental car long term. So you guys have seen thank you guys, I appreciate it. You guys have seen my Dodge Ram, my old blacked out Dodge Ram that's just all completely rhino lined. That's why I bought that truck. I found it cheap. I had a bunch of money put away and stuff at the time, so money wasn't really an issue at the time. I just happened to be able to put like $5,000 away. Now, this is my 20K story. Nobody else has heard this story. You guys are like literally the first people that have heard this story. I haven't even told the employees at work like all of this touchy stuff. So I'm working a union job at Rush Truck Center, right? I'm making some better money, union money. I got some money put away. I'm like, I don't want to stay in this rental car. I don't want to drive this piece of junk around every single day. So I go and I buy a 2001 Dodge Ram Sport. Pay cash for it, no problem. Truck's running great. Rust all over the place. So that's why you guys see the black Dodge Ram. Shortly after that, I took this new job where I'm working now. So now here we are, a short amount of time, a lot of chaos going on. These four girls get caught stealing my car. 14-year-old girls from the south side of Chicago were partying with their 15-year-old friend. Listen to this. This is where all this gets really screwy. And this is how screwed up the state of Illinois is. These girls jump in the neighbor's van that's in the driveway warming up, drive down the street to the gas station. They stole the van. The neighbor didn't give them permission to do that, and that wasn't even their kids that got in their vehicle. Drove down to the gas station. The 15-year-old girl took off. The 14-year-old girls went into the gas station, stole soda, chips, and everything else, and they were leaving as I was walking in. I didn't even put any of this together until days later when I was talking to the police officer and all the video footage and stuff was recorded. So they're like, yeah, you actually passed right by the girls when you walked in the door. They were walking out, and they jumped in your car and took off because you left it running. Now, they stole your car, but you're basically an idiot for leaving your car running outside a gas station. And I was like, yeah, I know. So they take off in the car and crash it. Blessing in disguise. So grateful that they took my car and crashed it. But I feel bad that such young girls are getting involved in this criminal activity. So all 5 of these girls steal the neighbor's car, steal my car, crash it, get into an accident, end up in the hospital. Let's fast forward a few months. The state's attorney, Kimberly Fox, bad girls, now go home. No charges. Multiple counts of burglary, theft, vandalism, nothing. Go home, you bad girls. No consequences. 0. Yeah, that's how the state of Illinois works. So they condition them to keep getting in trouble and keep getting in trouble and keep getting in trouble. And by the time they're 18 years old, they're so used to getting in trouble and screwing up, they don't know anything else. So then they actually do have to go do time in the penitentiary. Then they do have to go, this is what's going on in this state. It's the trashiest state in the United States. There's a lot of good people here, but the politics on the way this state is run and the inner workings of it is horrendous. Absolutely trash. And I don't think it's ever going to change. Now, the police officer's telling me, Illinois. The police officer's telling me, he's like, dude, I tried to bring these, he's just like my age, young, early 30s, mid 30s. He was talking just like we talk, He was like, dude, I went to this girl's house and literally was like, I need to question your daughter. She was involved in this crime. And he said the mom literally opened the door and looked through the door and was like, get the F away from my house. My daughter ain't got to say nothing. You get out of here. She's a kid. You don't have no business talking to her. And told the police officer to leave. Literally told her to leave. He had to have me come in, sign a statement saying that I wanted to press charges just so we could get answers for what happened and why. That's what happened. They had to get a judge to sign paperwork to make these girls that did this at least speak up. And then they didn't even bring them in to like court or in an official building or whatever. The police officer had to ask questions at the home, from what I understand. Now, outside of that, they couldn't give me any more information because they have to protect the children. Because they're still children, they're still juveniles. So let's push all that aside. The car gets totaled, the insurance company, Gap, all this other stuff picks up whatever they're supposed to do and did their stuff. So all that stuff let's push that aside and move on back to the Dodge Ram. Now, I was in a hard spot here, and this is why I really love the dealership where I'm at. And it's going to get a little sentimental, so I'm glad that some of you have hung around. Now, we've talked about in the past in my videos where I've had issues with unions using me, companies, not the union itself, but the company using the union type stature and environment to abuse an employee coming up that could potentially be a fabulous worker for them, but they become a threat, so they push them out. So I'm in this business, right? And you hear about my probation ending and then them firing me because they used me as much as they could, and then the union never signed me. And then I leave that job to go to another union job. So I'm working this other union job where you just heard the story of the accident with the car and everything else. And I'm loving the union type atmosphere, but it's such a large company that you really are just a little spot on the number map. Little tiny spot. Now, it was a great company to work for. I had no complaints. Now, I've heard other people talk bad about the company. I have no reason to. I hit the door running when I started this company. I was young. They called me the bull of the shop because I'm a big meatball, strong. I did powerlifting and stuff all through high school and in the military and stuff like that. You can even find some other content on here where you can see some of my lifting stuff if you know where to look. Um, and I was a strong guy, meatball though, just chunky meatball. I come in the door and that's our trans guy, that's our driveline guy. The old guys are all waving flags in the shop. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We ain't got to do this stuff no more. That guy right there is going to get all the transmissions, all the clutches, all the kingpins, all the everything that has to do with heavy suspension on these big Mack trucks, internationals, whatever it was. That guy right there, he's getting it. And they gave it to me. Oh my God. I learned so much from these guys. I learned so much from these guys. I got to the point where I was pulling clutches out of automatic transmissions without even using the big jack hydraulic tool, just because I learned tricks from these guys. I'd get underneath with like a 450-pound creeper, one of the more heavy duty ones, slide up underneath the bell housing, and I'd inch myself in, and then I'd pull the last two bolts out, and I'd put my chest up against the clutch, and I'd let it just basically fall back on my chest, and I'd be holding this thing as I'm crawling back, and then I'd just bend over, literally, and put this clutch on the ground, do my work inside, regardless if it's a flywheel, some pilot bearing, all this other stuff, get everything replaced, then pick that clutch back up without even using the trans jack, using their method. Didn't hurt myself at all. Would get the clutch put right back in, transmission stabbed, everything. It was a phenomenal job. I learned a shit ton. The hardest trucks to work on were those Vector trucks, those big barrel, long, huge drum type trucks that suck all the sewage and stuff out. It's got the big black pipe off the back of it. When those trucks came in and you were working on Cummins engines and like Allison transmissions and stuff, the automatic Allison transmissions, the ones that were the size of your kitchen table. Oh my God. Massive, massive, massive transmissions. They put our regular truck transmissions and semi-transmissions to shame. I mean, hydraulic lines running all over the place, big, massive, long things. It took you forever and a day to pull one of them out. But I loved it. I loved the challenge. I loved being put in that spot. I loved the older guys in the shop coaching me up and training me to a point where they didn't have to best fix for stiction and 6.0s, put new injectors in it. A lot of guys use that stiction modifier. I have a buddy that has an Expedition with a 6.0, and he uses that additive. What is it called? It's called stiction modifier. And he will dump that additive in there, and he swears by that stuff. He'll run it at high RPM with the additive in there, and he says within a couple runs, he said it's almost like they're acting, there's no problem at all. He loves this stuff. But I don't get into a lot of the diesel stuff anymore because I've moved over to gas and interior work, but now I'm going to have to go back to some of the diesel stuff because our diesel tech, he's actually moving on to another company, and I'm sure I'm going to be moved over into that area because I have. So you guys are going to get a lot of new content coming up. The diesel tech's moving on, and I'm actually going to probably move more into that area. So there's going to be some 6.7 videos, 6.4, 6.0s, probably some more. There's going to be some 7.3 videos and stuff coming up. What I consider a A 3.5 Ecoboost is a reliable engine in the aspect of the inner workings of it. It's a great, powerful engine. Ford hasn't lined out the timing components like you would ideally want. So I can't talk bad about the product, but what I can do is I can tell you, be careful. It's a great engine, makes a ton of power. You get on that thing and it's gone. There's a reason why. What was it? The GT500 or something like that. When I went to my first auto show, I see this carbon fiber body of glory sitting there. Like I just wanted to cream all over myself looking at this thing, and I find out that it's a twin turbo V6. I'm like, what? That's what Ford put in this thing? It's amazing. It's just the most glorious thing that I've seen. But I I didn't know that it actually had the twin turbo V6 in that version that was there. So I move on from Rush Enterprises because I got a call one day, and it was the owner of my company. The owner of my company says, "You want to work?" I said, "Well, I'm working." And he said, "No, I mean, do you want to work for more money? I'm going to take care of you." He's a straight shooter, straight to the point. Doesn't matter with him. He just tells you what's on his mind. He's not a jerk about it. He says, "You want to work? You want a job? You're a Ford guy, right? I heard about you from another regional rep somewhere where they were having a big management meeting, and there was another service manager that talked about you, and he praised you up and down all over the place and said sorry that you had got done wrong in the past, and he really thinks that you're that guy for all dealerships." And I said, "Well, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to find out any job. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care if I know how to do it or not. I'm going to be that guy that you're going to go to, and you're going to say, 'Can you do this?' And I want to say yes, 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 without hesitating. You going to pay me more money?" And he said, "Absolutely going to pay you more money. You want a job or not?" And I was like, yeah, I want a job. "Look, be at the shop at this time, meet with the service manager. You're going to love him. He's just like you." So I show up early in the morning before my shift in the afternoon. I work second shift. I sit down, I'm talking to my service manager. And I'm talking to this guy, and I said, "Why does this guy kind of look like me? He's got the same facial features as me. He's got the same type of beard as me. He's a little heavier set than me and stuff like that. Dude wants to be on a keto diet. He's trying to lose weight, trying to get healthier. He's almost the same age as me. He's got like 2 Fox body Mustangs that are pro drag cars, or they should be certified as pro drag cars. That's like a hobby of his. One of them's a twin turbo small block that's like 1,700 horsepower. Then he sent another one off to some specialty company in North Dakota. It's a 26 or 2,700 horsepower twin turbo big block. And dude, he drives like an F-450 truck, and he's all about the business. He's all about making money. He's all about, having fun and stuff like that. And I'm like, I could talk to this guy forever, man. This dude is like, he almost seems like my brother. And we're laughing and joking. We shook hands and stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to lie. He's a little quirky, a little funny. When your boss starts to feel like he's your friend, it starts to get a little uncomfortable because you walk up to each other, you smack each other on the butt and stuff like that. A little grab every once in a while when you're screwing around, and you're like, it starts to become a little comfortable. Like, are you really my boss? You seem like my best friend that I grew up with forever. Those situations can get a little weird with your service manager when you start to feel that way. Now, my service manager now, phenomenal dude, level-headed, calm-spoken, knows I do all the YouTube stuff, completely like in it for me to live my life and be free without restricting me, as long as I'm doing the right thing. My general manager, same thing, knows about the YouTube channel, watches my stuff every once in a while, and he's like, "You know what? You do you, man. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. I'm not going to censor you or anything like that. I'm on your side. Just be careful." Okay, I'm going to be careful. I'm going to do my thing. I had nothing when I went to this company. Between the transition of being at Rush at the end to going to Ford, I had nothing. I was living out of a truck, staying in hotel rooms, trying to put money away, living as cheap as I possibly could on ramen noodles and hot dogs. There were times I didn't even eat for days on end. I had a dog with me, my service dog. I would leave her in the parking lot with the AC on and the truck running. At the time, I could consider myself poor. I could consider myself this small on the map of meaning. When my owner called me up and said, "Do you want to live? Do you want to eat? Do you want to work? Do you want to make money? Then come to my place and I will pay you and I will make it worth your while," I was gone immediately. I didn't feel like so much of a number anymore. I didn't feel like so much of a, that little tiny spot on the bottom of the scale working for a big corporate company. I felt like somebody. And that's where I'm working today. I've been offered more money. I've been offered dollars more than what I'm making now. When you go from nothing to feeling like you're somebody and your employer, even though we are a fairly large company now, it's grown over the last couple of years. I have 2 cars now, all my debt paid off. My credit has come up 125 points. I can feed myself. I can go buy stuff whenever I want if I wanted to. Now I'm just starting to feel that sense of security and relief. I'm just starting to feel what it's like to feel that financial freedom, the burden of not having to pay and live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. It's taken me 35 years to get there. And people 10 years younger than me, 15 younger than me, are complaining about wanting it now. Hell, I just want to be able to put food on the table, man. I just want to be able to pay my bills on time. I just want to have to not live out of a suitcase and live out of a truck. Yeah, that's powerful. When you can actually get to a spot in your life where you feel like you're something, that you have a voice, you have a community, you have friends, you have people. That's what's important to me. I've been offered a lot of stuff to leave the company I'm at now because people watch my videos. Technicians call me and stuff like that. They ask me for help all the time. They say stuff to their bosses and their employers. How can you leave somebody? Even if you are in the worst spot, unless somebody's directly disrespecting you and making your work life so miserable, how could you leave somebody that's helped you go from that to feeling like you're like that? It ain't easy. It's a hard choice to make when you went from nothing to having something. No matter how much BS you have to. I started the channel about 2 years ago. I just made small little videos that never really went anywhere. Nobody ever listened to me. I would recommend people watch this video and stuff because what they were being told wasn't fixing their problem, but I had the fix for it. And all it did was take one video to start to get a little popular, a little bit more popular, a little bit more popular. And you know what saved me? Let me see what my battery life is on this phone so I don't lose you guys. 7%. Let's do this in 7%. You know what saved me? Was the Panther platform guys. You see them comment on here every once in a while. Panzer, Vitaly Kaufman. Those Panther guys are what saved me. Those guys are what actually started bringing traffic to my channel. Those guys are the ones that were telling people, this guy's going to be somebody. This guy's going to be the next Ford Make You Loco. This guy's going to be the next Scotty Kilmer. Now, I didn't think that at all. That's what these guys were saying. But when these guys were saying that, other people started, hey, what's this guy? What are they talking about? And they started coming to my channel. Hey, man, this dude knows what he's talking about. This dude right here. Okay, guys, come over here, come over here, come over here. And they're all coming over to me. And they're all talking to me and asking me questions and stuff. And then all of a sudden, the channel's growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. It's because of them. It's because of those guys that the channel started taking off. I can't claim the complete success to anything. Those guys are what started this channel to grow. But then when I started feeling more confident because of those guys, I started letting a little bit more loose and letting my personality come out. Talk about things in a more honest aspect. And when that started happening, then things really started to flower. A couple videos started trending, then all kinds of people started coming over to the page. The Car Wizard is smart, man. A lot of people say stuff to me sometimes about like the Car Wizard. He seems off when he's explaining something. No, that dude is smart. That dude knows what he's talking about. He looks at things a little bit different than most other guys do, and that's why he's successful in doing what he does. The video he put out about the 5-liter low oil pressure at like, what was it, 150,000 miles or something like that. The only way to save that motor is by pulling that motor apart and rebuilding it. He is right. You've got to take like a Lucas oil stabilizer and you got to dump it in that oil and run it with fresh oil, and that brings the oil pressure up. But that's like the equivalence of like a 50 weight oil or something like that, or thicker. So that's why it works. That's why when he said, you know, I reach out to the Ford guys in the field and they say this is how they fix the problem, because there is no real fix to the problem. It's rebuilding the engine is the fix to the problem. He was 100% correct. Can you get more out of that motor without actually rebuilding it? Yes, you can. You got to use additives. You can save it. You can run another 20, 30,000 miles. But from that point on, you're going to have to keep adding that stabilizer in the oil every time you change the oil. You cannot get away from that. So he is right. The guy's got good stuff. I have nothing bad to say about him. He'll figure it. If he can't figure it out, he will figure it out. And that's the thing about a mechanic. If I cannot figure out what the problem is, I'm going to figure it out. If I have to ask you for help or somebody for help or figure it out or read a book or go and watch a YouTube video or go into, all data and look at TSBs or something, I'm going to figure it out. I will die on that job before I give up. And that's the thing. If the car wizard doesn't know, he will figure it out. That's how it is. And he doesn't admit to knowing everything in the world either. That's the important part, is when you can find somebody that says, I don't know all the answers to everything, but if you're asking me a question and I don't know it, now I want to know it. I want to know the answer to that. I came to you guys tonight on the Honda CR-V thing. I don't know the answer to that. I don't work on Hondas, but now I want to know it. Now you guys have given me a list of things to look at, and that's what I'm going to go do. I've had guys ask me all the time. A guy called me up from Mexico. He requested to call, not Mexico, California. There's another story about a couple from Mexico. They got a hold of me to fix their vehicle because they had no mechanics in their area to fix. You know what I need to do? I need to get the charge cord. All right, we're back in business for a little bit longer. All right, there's a guy from California called me up. A young Hispanic guy called me up, and he was like, hey, brother, I need your help, man. The truck's down right now. I got a new job coming up. I don't know what to do. I can't get it to start. It was like 2011, 2012 F-150. And he said, when I turn the key on, I don't hear the fuel pump. I don't hear nothing. I said, well, first, before you do anything, go to the engine bay, open the cover. Can you put me on FaceTime? He was like, yeah, I'll do the FaceTime thing. So he puts me on FaceTime and he flips the phone around, right? And I say, you see, take your finger and put it on the top of the fuse box. Now work your hand down and I'll tell you when to stop. And as he's going to stop right there, move 2 fuses over, pull that fuse out. He pulls it out and he's looking at it. He says, it looks good. And I said, no. Open the tangs up a little bit. Bend the tabs out just a hair and stick that fuse back in. He sticks the fuse back in the fuse box, gets in the truck, and fires the truck right up. And I said, that fuse right there is for the fuel pump. It blows out on those all the time. They have a relocation kit. I forget. It's been a while since I've did one. You move it to another slot. It doesn't matter what slot you move it into. I have technicians that like to argue with me about this, and they're like, oh, you got to move it to slot 71. No, you don't. You can move it to any open slot inside that box where there's no fuse. You just have to know that that's where that fuse is for your, or write something on the fuse box. Fuel pump fuse, slot 22, whatever. So the guy fired the truck up. Truck's running. He starts his new job. At the end of the week, he's like, dude, I got to send you some money, man. I've had so many people look at this. I got to send you some money. No, you don't. You don't got to send me any money. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the respect of telling me that I helped you. Thank you for letting me know that I did something for you. That's all I need from you. That's it. I appreciate it, man. Well, the guy emails me every once in a while. How you doing, brother? Just checking in on you. You okay? Everything good? YouTube channel's doing good. So he may even comment on here. Then there was a couple in Mexico. They email me, and the lady's freaking out because the airbag light came on the Explorer. Well, she's in the back. I can hear her like almost emotional. Her husband is on the phone. We're talking back and forth. We went from email to a phone call. And I'm telling her husband, I said, can you go in the back seats and can you actually grab the back seat and flip up the Explorer rear seat? And he flips it up. And I said, you see the connector down there on the floor? There's one on each side. There's one for the passenger side. There's one for the driver's side. And he said, yeah. I said, that little tab's kind of hard to push. You're going to have to push the phone, put the phone down, push the tab in really, really hard and pull back on that connector while you're supporting the shell on the other side. So he unplugs it. He said, now plug it back in. He plugs it back in. Goes to the other side, does the same thing. So now jump in the channel, or jump in the driver's seat, turn the key on, let it do its sweep, let it do its self-check and everything else, see if the airbag light's still on. Airbag light was gone. completely gone. See, the problem with this is Ford made a new updated connection for that TSB. You can do that TSB right now and put new connectors in it right now. I don't care what you do until you're blue in the face. You can put a new set of connectors in there right now, and a year from now, those lights will come back on. That light will come back. I just had it happen. There's a lady at the shop right now. The mechanic, he's no longer with us. He went to somebody else. He followed a service manager to another job. They're really good friends. But one of his vehicles came back like 8 months later for the same TSB. Replaced the connectors. He did a great job. I inspected his work. Everything was great. Second row airbag came back on. No matter what you do, those will never go away completely unless you actually pull those pins out. Maybe take some solder, melt a little solder in like a little cup, and then take those pins and dip them down in the solder, each one of them, and then put them back inside the connector, but just do it quick so it's thin and keep it hot. Then you plug them back in, and it will take up some of that space inside the connection and actually create a better connection. That's not always the fix, though. You can actually take a pick, and on the female side where it grabs the male side of the pin, you can actually bend that in just a little bit and tighten up that connection, and then take some XG12 electrical grease and squirt it inside that connector, and then plug everything back together. Bam. That right there, Vitaly Kaufman, he's one of the ones that helped me really get that guy. So if y'all haven't subscribed to him, you need to subscribe to him, please. Help him get some love. He's all about reviews on old cars and guys traveling all over the place, junkyards, random mechanic shops. I'm not sure how he hasn't had some thug beat him up by now, but he shows up at some of the most random places and starts filming, and away he goes, and people absolutely love it. So if you guys get a chance to check him out, please do. He's a real good guy, actual friend of mine. I know him in real life, and he's another YouTuber. He'll come out to my dealership and actually do some of his YouTube videos and stuff. We'll do stuff together about the Panther platform cars. But it's stuff like that. It's stuff like just helping people, being genuine, being sincere about stuff. And I love what I do, man. I love being a part of people's lives. I love the fact. I had a lady message me on here, a mom that didn't know anything about cars, and she was trying to get into the back of a Cadillac, CRX. She couldn't get in the back of the car. She was leaving the grocery store. The kids were fussing and everything else. She sent me a message on the YouTube channel quick, and I messaged her right away. It's like, thank you for letting me know the situation. I'm glad I was able to help you. All she did was climb through the center of the Cadillac CRX, laid across the back seats, just like I had said, took her key and popped the little light off on the deck lid, the trunk lid, and then took a screwdriver and stuck it through the hole and pushed the little metal latch in the back, and the door popped right open. But if you follow GM's service procedure, I went next door and I asked the general manager over there, not service manager, I said, how do I get this back cover off of this thing? And he said, you literally got to grab it, pull to the center, and then try to pull up from the bottom. A lot of times you break it, and good luck, because those are often on back order, because that's how a lot of guys get those apart. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm not going to break this vehicle just because I got to find another workaround for this. And sure enough, I look on the internet. I don't find any other YouTube videos out there showing people how to do this. I find nobody else explaining this. And I'm like, you know what? I got to make a video on this. I take a pick and I switch it, pull the plastic off. I take a screwdriver and stick it up inside there. I catch the latch. Vitaly Kaufman, V-I-T. You can see him in the comment section here. I will, let's go here. If somebody's got his link, if you just subscribe. He's a good guy, man. You guys are going to kick out of him. He says a lot of funny stuff sometimes. It's just out of nowhere. And I'm like, where the hell did that come from? He's one of those guys where it's kind of dry, little humorous, and then out of nowhere, I'm like crying. Vitaly Kaufman, Vitaly Kaufman. He just loves cars. That's his whole channel. It's just about cars. It's not about like a lot of repairs. Like he'll share some stuff about things that he's found to fix on his Panther platform. He's a car reviewer. He talks about a lot of car stuff, like the old Buick Regals and the town cars, and just different, like, I don't know, if a Monte Carlo showed up, he's always going about business, just reviewing cars. That's his thing. And the dude's got to have balls of steel because he'll show up at a repair shop. Like, he doesn't touch people's personal vehicles. You can tell the difference between something that's been sitting there for a long, 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 long time and somebody's vehicle that's currently being worked on. So he might show up in the back of a shop somewhere and see a bunch of old used cars sitting around or something like that nobody's driven for years and years and years. And he'll go, let me look inside this car real quick. And I'm like, oh my God. I even messaged him one day on one of his videos. I was like, dude, aren't you afraid that you're going to get shot or something one day or some thugs are going to come jump you? And he was like, I'm just looking at cars, man. I'm not doing nothing. Okay. So I'm at the dealership now where I'm at. That's kind of where the story was going. You know, I went from having nothing to now feeling super supported by you guys. I feel very, very blessed in my life, and I'm at a very, 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 very good spot to continue to grow. People have been bringing up some topics lately. Thank you guys on all the congratulations on 20,000. People have bringing up a very, I wouldn't say sensitive topic lately, but a topic that's been thrown around a lot. Why don't you open your own shop? I've thought about it. Something you guys don't know about me is I did have my own shop. I had my own shop for about 6 months, but it wasn't my own shop. I did so much work for the owner that owned the shop, so he got paid his lease fee for the month, and then everything past that was all mine. I had bulk oil filters. That's why I know the whole quick lube game. I already know the whole quick lube interaction. I jumped into it, and it was super easy to do. There was nothing hard about it. My first customer was an Indian guy, a doctor, and he wanted a front. I don't know what happened, but anyway, he wanted front brakes and rotors done on a Toyota Camry. So I called a parts warehouse up, and I'm like, what can you give me pricing on? He said, well, I got the front brakes. Your cost is $28.99. The customer's cost is $55.99. I got a set of front rotors for that thing. Premium quality. Your cost $41.99. Customer's cost $62.99. Okay, deal. Send it to me. Get it coming now. Well, it shows up, and it's my first customer, right? It's not even an oil change. The guy literally showed up and wanted brakes done on his car. And I said, you know what, bud? I'm going to do this at my cost. I'm not even going to charge you the markup or anything like that. Whatever this cost me is what I'm charging you. I'm just going to make money off the labor. So I didn't charge you any extra money on the parts. I charged them like an hour. I didn't even charge them like a standard hour and a half rate or whatever most shops are. I charged them an hour. Got everything cleaned up, got his brakes and stuff on, burnished them in, sent the guy on his way. The next day, the dude had 2 or 3 family members come into my shop. Brake jobs. One guy had a coolant leak. Another guy had an issue with a rear window wiper motor that was all locked up. And I was like, wait a second. Yeah. I mean, this is how this works. I mean, you do good work, and then all of a sudden more people come because they refer you. They recommend you because you're not robbing them. And they feel comfortable enough to tell their family and friends about you. And then all of a sudden, Picasso, I got a lot of, there's a couple haters on this channel. There's guys that are jealous. There's guys that are little femboys or whatever you want to call them. They're not mechanics. They're not even technicians. They're not even DIY guys. They're not even handsy guys that know how to change a faucet in the kitchen. They're little guys that run around with tubes of Vagisil in their back pocket and putting lipstick on is pretty much what they are. Yep, that's those guys. Soy boys. That's what we call them. Soy boys. It was funny, the fact that it was all coming together like it was, because I could see myself, honestly, the rest of my life being in an independent shop. I feel like the independent shop is where my future is long term, just because I loved the different vehicles coming in the door. I love getting to meet all the different customers. I loved being a part of their life for the short time I did it. I loved that atmosphere. I loved being able to say, This is what it's going to cost. This is what you need. These are your options. You tell me what you want to do. If it's too much of a safety issue and you're not going to approve it, then I cannot do your work. Sorry, we need to do this priority based here, and I'm looking out for you. Safety issues first, and then we'll talk about other stuff that needs to be done. And people love that about me because I was straightforward with them. I didn't lie to them. I didn't play games with them. I didn't charge them a bunch of upsell stuff. I wasn't throwing stuff at their vehicle all the time. I did what needed to be done, and safety was always first. But I moved on with my life. I wanted to go to college longer and stuff like that. What's going on, Grandmaster? Let me look through here. Well, there's actually a shop locally here. I quit because I had a big falling out. David says, "Why did you quit?" The owner of the establishment was this guy in the past. He was like this big old Polish bodybuilder back in the day, and he owned the car dealer that was attached to the mechanic shop. And he would always demand that I do things for him, and didn't want to pay. And my father told me when I was just getting into this, be very weary of doing work for Polish guys and Italian guys because they will always want something for free. They're always going to try to get something out of you without paying what you're asking or what you're worth. And I was like, why did Dad always say that? And then I'm like, oh, wait a second. The first Polish guy that I dealt with in business tried to screw me out of money or whatever. The guy wanted a percentage of what I was making past the lease money. He would always ask me to go jumpstart cars and get them started for free and stuff like that. The Italian guy that was there, that was one of the car salesmen, was always demanding that I did stuff for him. And I'm like, what is up with these people always wanting stuff for free in the business? Not outside of the business, I can't speak about that. Obviously, my father's Polish, my mother's Sicilian. They both know what they're talking about, right? Because that's their life. That's what they've lived. Eventually, I got to a point where I started demanding money. And I said, nope, if you want me to jumpstart a car, it's $20. If you want me to recharge your AC, $60. If you want me to replace a battery, $30. You buy the battery, $30 to put it in. That's that. This is the rate. It's on the wall now. There's no getting out of it. That's what you're paying. Well, they got offended by that, and they didn't want to pay that. And then he said, well, I own the building that you're working out of. You're right, you do. And my boxes got wheels, and I'll roll this motherfucker straight out the door, and you won't ever have to worry about me again. And it'll be an empty bay sitting here. How's that? Well, he tried me. He actually tried me. He said, you won't do nothing. You got to make money, right? I said, oh, do I have to make money? I have 2 other jobs outside of here, and I do enough side work to where I don't need your 4 bays to do that. So I rolled the box over to the lift. I put the 2 legs underneath it. I lifted it up in the air, and I backed my truck right up underneath it. I set the box down on the 2 wheels in front. I pushed it as far as I could, and I asked the other guy in the shop, Chuck, I said, help me push this thing in the back of it. Pushed it right in the back of the truck, strapped it down, and hauled ass. My name wasn't on anything. I was just running the place. Yeah. I'm not going to put up with that stuff. He tried me, and I moved on. And I actually ended up making more money anyway. You know, a lot of people say that, why don't you become a shop owner? Why don't you become a shop owner? Well, because owning a shop takes a lot of work when you start out. And unless you've got the right mindset to jump into it and roll because you already know the business, which I haven't done it enough to actually know the independent shop business. I'm so green, I wouldn't even be able to touch the tip of being green because I only did it for 8 months. And it wasn't even really my shop. It was somebody else's shop that I was just running. So there's a difference in owning your own shop and running your business and starting out from scratch and going through all those trials and tribulation to get where you're going, and somebody that just ran a shop. It's not the same thing. Those guys that started their shop, they maintained their shop, they kept the lights on, the bills paid, the employees, went through all the tribulations of how are we going to get working here, how are we going to be busy when times are bad. Those guys know how to run a shop. Those are the ones that had to live through that. Me, it was nothing. It wasn't even the beginning part of being green. I just had it easy. It was something that was already existing, and I just took it over. That's what I did. So there's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of
headache involved with some of it sometimes. And those guys, the shop owners, know. I didn't have to deal with any of that because even when I was running the shop, I still wasn't the one paying the bills. I still wasn't the one trying to make sure everything was maintenance. All I was doing was making enough money to cover somebody else to maintain that, and then everything else was a profit to me. It was it's just a game you play, right? You got to try to figure out where you fit in life, and like somebody else said, it's a giant chess game, right? You just have to make sure that you're the one that is 4 steps ahead, so you can put yourself in the right place. Now, I won't lie to you guys. This month, now I don't know how many other channel creators has ever told you about their financial situation, but I'm going to disclose to you this month what is being projected for me to make on this channel. Has anybody else ever told you guys that? And do you guys even want to know that? I mean, if you guys want to know that, I'm going to be open and honest with you about that because I don't think anybody ever even talks about that. Okay, so I'm kind of mixed here. I'm not gonna say I can't say it because there's a lot of people saying don't do it, and then there's a lot of people saying do it. So I can't. I hope you guys don't. I mean, I have to respect everybody. So I won't. I won't even do it. Let's just put it like this: when I didn't have all the following, I still had enough people watching my videos to where my videos were monetized, and I would make like $200 or $300 the first month. The next month I'm $400 or $500 or something like that. The third month I made $700, and then after that, the channel exploded. I can't say anything past that then because I do have to respect the people. No, it's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. My name's Rich. I'm from Illinois, and I'm a master technician at Dundee Ford. Yes, it's enough to pay my rent. Let's just put it that way. A lot of people are messaging me. A lot of other shops are contacting me for help. A lot of independent shops now use me exclusively. They send me emails. They call me up on the phone and stuff like that whenever they have Ford problems. A lot of people that didn't know about me now do know about me. A lot of people have been asking me to start a Patreon. They've been asking to donate me money and stuff like that. And I've put all that away. I've refused all that because I can't make that decision and I can't make that call because I feel like I need to talk to you guys. And you guys have been the backbone of everything so far, and that's kind of why I'm here. So that's an important topic right there. Somebody else just hit that on the head. What does the dealership think about me making these videos? At first, they were a little hesitant. The dealership wasn't sure how it was going to play out. I didn't ask for permission. I wasn't going to ask for permission. I just kind of took a chance. And when I took the chance, my service manager came out one day and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm making a YouTube video." "You're making a YouTube video while you're working?" "Yeah, I'm going to get my work done, and I'm making a YouTube video." "You don't pay me enough." I was being a jerk. He knew I was playing with him. "You don't pay me enough to be here, so I'm going to try to work on getting paid from YouTube, helping other people fix their stuff." "Oh, really, smart ass." Blah, 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 blah. You go home right now. I said, "Oh, I can go home right now? I could go home? I'll go home right now. You giving me the day off?" And he said, "No, get back to work." I said, okay, I'm going to make my video while I'm working. And he was like, oh, kids, you know, even though we're the same age. So I finished the job. I put the video out, pretty popular video. He said, wow, that worked great. And I said, yeah. You notice the company got a good review off of it too? Somebody actually gave us a good Google review. And he was like, yeah, I did see that. Somebody was in the shop as well. I said, exactly. I did the repair on the customer's car, and I actually shared with them the video so they could see how I was treating their car, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. They seen me wiping the fingerprints off and making sure the seat cover and everything was put back and talking about how I care about people's stuff. I don't want it leaving there in a bad condition. I don't want it leaving there with fingerprints on it and stuff like that. I want them to be happy. I took it down to the end of the shop. I ran it through the wash, cleaned it for the customer and stuff like that. I gave it back to the customer. And they thought it was amazing that they got to see their car worked on from start to finish where they could not see it in the front of the dealership. And they were like, oh my God, that actually worked. So he said, you know what? Do your thing. Be very careful. Don't disrespect anybody. Just roll with it. And then I did another one and another one and another one. And then people were like, this is working. People like this honesty. People like seeing what's going on with their vehicle. They like, I have a video on here. I shit you not. I have a video on here where I pulled a 2016 something Escape in for a cylinder block replacement, coolant intrusion recall. I took my phone, I set it up on the front of my toolbox, and I rolled, baby. I rolled. I started live, and I showed people from start to finish how I disconnected everything in the front of the engine bay, how I dropped the engine out of the bottom of the vehicle. I had it on the stand and stuff like that. And people were like, how in the hell did you do that just in the time that you did that in? Because I'm good. Because I am good. Gooder. And so they watched me from start to finish. I had like 200 or 300 people watching me at one time drop this motor out of the bottom of this car in just a matter of hours. And they were like, wow. You got to do all that just to, yes, we have to do a lot of stuff to pull these engines out of these vehicles. A lot of stuff's got to get disconnected. A lot of stuff's got to come apart. And the dealer's seen it. And they were like, holy crap, what's all these likes and people talking about, we need to go to this dealership. And it works, guys. It works. And any of the dealers out there, any of the service managers out there, Ford Corporate, I know you watch my channel and stuff like that. People like transparency. They like to see what's going on. They like to know what's going on with their vehicles. They like it. I'm not worried about what another Master Tech did, though, James. I get that guy got caught up, but he probably said something or did something that they didn't like. I don't do that. I'm just honest. I don't bash Ford. I don't bash Chevy or Dodge or anybody. I'm just honest. That's all. You know, there was a guy that made a video, and this is a story told by me. This was a story not by me, by another guy in the field. There was a technician that was recording a vehicle from a manufacturer, and they were laughing and joking about it, and there was something happening with the vehicle. Needless to say, those guys got let go. They got fired immediately. I don't do that. I don't bash manufacturers. I don't bash vehicles. I don't bash people. I don't bash other YouTubers. I might say a comment about one specific YouTuber from time to time about how corny and cheesy he is, but it's never really in the essence of bashing him. I don't do that. I don't believe in that. So, I can't say his name, but some of you know. I think it's kind of cheesy about how he goes about doing stuff, but it works for him, and it works for people. They enjoy it, they love him. So I'm not in the business of taking that away from him. The whole dealer thing worked. The YouTube thing worked. Putting my videos and stuff up here worked. And then the dealer realized people were bringing their cars in. I got a guy on here. His name's Wes. You see his icon sometimes. It's like a picture of I don't know if it looks like a Shelby or something like that. I'm not sure. I think it's a Shelby. I don't know. And he brought his truck into us. We did cam phasers and everything, got it all fixed up and stuff like that, got it back to him. He immediately brought his Grand Marquis in. He brought his 95 Grand Marquis in. I got videos out on that. I did 3 recalls on it and stuff. Talked about how beautiful the car was, my knowledge on the Panther platform. And people were floored by somebody as young as me being interested in those cars because I love those cars. That was when dealers or when manufacturers put together stuff that lasted, that you could be proud of. It didn't have to be the fastest thing. It didn't have to be the most exciting thing. It just worked. And it was nice and it drove good and you got in it every time, fired it up, and you got from point A to point B with no problems. It just worked. And I'm fascinated with those cars. I love those cars. I'll give you 5 minutes right now. Let's do this debate. Something fun while we're on here. The 4.6 liter 2-valve is the best motor ever created. Change my mind. I'm waiting. No. See, here's why. So we're going to go back a little bit here. This guy says the LS 5.3. Nah, bruh. It's not as easy to work on as the Panther cars. It's not as nowhere near as reliable. Look at all of the issues that they're having right now with the LS lineup. The LS 5.3, it's a great motor. Don't get me wrong. It's a great performing motor. But we're talking about efficiency, reliability, and how cheap it is to maintain it. And it is not the LS engine. Facts don't care about feelings, bro. And no insult to you, but the 300 was a very good engine. It was a very strong engine, but it wasn't the most reliable, efficient engine in the aspect of maintaining it. So yes, the 300 was great, probably one of the best performing engines of all time. But when you have to take into consideration efficiency, reliability, how easy it was to maintain it, and the aspect behind, if you do want to do some programming and tuning and stuff like that, it was not with that motor. Trying to get to the bottom of the list. How many 300s have you seen with 500,000 miles on it? How many LS motors have you seen with 500,000 miles on it? With the reliability and the efficiency and the overall this ease aspect of working on it when it comes to a 4.6 2-valve or a 5.4 2-valve? Zero. Not in the aspect of the 4.6 2-valve, hands down, is the most reliable, efficient in the aspect of ease and reliability. It's the best one. The 7.3 liter Power Stroke was the best diesel engine ever created. I would say, or the 7, actually, a lot of people argue me when I say that. They say actually the 7.3 IDI was even better. It was more simple. It was easy to work on. Or the 6.9 IDI. A lot of people actually reference that as well. The 6.2 liter V8 in Ford's lineup with their F-150s up until 14 and then all the way up until now, the 6.2 liter by far is the best Ford performing, ease, efficient, commercial / everyday use vehicle that I see on the road right now. I don't know enough about the 7.3 yet because it just came out and we haven't had a single one in the shop. Trying to keep my finger away from this camera. I never had a problem with a 7.3 Power Stroke. The only thing that I ever had to do, and this is honestly Bible, like hand on the Bible, if you're offended, you're offended. The only thing that I've ever had to do to a 7.3 was I had a cylinder 8 leaky injector. I had to replace the injector and then glow plugs. That was it. I've never had a problem with a 7.3 outside of that. Ecoboost. You talking about the new, like the 3 liter in the STs? Great motor, great performing motor. The new Explorer driveline that comes along with that 3.0 liter EcoBoost it's noisy. Sounds like a Chrysler 4-wheel drive type setup that's real chattery and loud. It almost winds up. It sounds like you're in a track car taking off in that thing sometimes. Like you can launch the hell out of that car. It launches hard, the Explorer ST. But when you launch that thing, you hear the wind up inside the 4-wheel drive system because it's a very noisy 4-wheel drive system, but it makes a ton of power. And it sounds like you're about to launch this thing to the moon. So it's a little different. Only thing that I've had to do to the new 3-liter ST is one customer came in for a coolant overtemp code that popped up on the dash. And Ford has a TSB out for that says they want you to take apart the center of the engine completely, like the intake manifold all the way down to the coolant pass-through tube and stuff. And then in the center of that valley, there's 2 NOx sensors and there's a coolant temp sensor. They want you to take the NOx sensors off and unplug the coolant temp sensor, leave the intermediate connector together, go further down the harness, unplug it, and then take that harness that's still together, put it in a bag and send it back to them. Put a new harness in, bolt everything back up, fill it up with coolant and stuff like that, clear codes, and it takes the coolant overtemp condition away. There's nothing wrong with the vehicle. It's not actually overheating. It's just something that's faulty inside that connector. The 7.3 liter so far, I think, what were the numbers recently? There was like a hot rod magazine, or there was like a show or something on YouTube, or they were talking about 1,000 horsepower was really easily achievable with a 7.3 and boost. But they were also saying they've seen numbers up to 1,300 or 1,400 already with that 7.3. The Ford Duratec V6 is one of the best motors, the most reliable. A little expensive to replace when it comes to like water pumps, timing chains, stuff like that. But it's a great motor. Now, some of you are probably going to shoot me when I say this. I hope this is not the ultimate sin by saying this. The best sounding diesel that I've ever heard, based on more of a performance sound, a clean, aggressive, performing sound, the 6.0 liter Power Stroke. When you open them up and you delete them and you put a nice exhaust system on them, holy moly, those things scat. The 6.0 just sounds like it's just the most unique, powerful diesel sound that I've ever heard. And my buddy has one out west of here. He's got an ARP studded, completely deleted, tuned, giant turbo and stuff on it. It is a truck pull monster. He said, I refuse to get a new 6.7 or 6.4 or 7.3. The 6 liter, for some reason, with what he does, is the best application for doing his truck pulls. And he absolutely makes that thing eat. It's something like 1,600 or 1,700 horsepower, over 2,000 foot-pounds of torque. And he just makes that thing work, and it never quits. But he knew right away he had to stud it, delete it, and then I don't know if he tried his other truck in the version with a concrete block. At first, I think he went with a concrete block or something like that, because I forget what the reason was why he did that. And then he has a second one, which is a truck pull one. It's nasty. The 6.0, I've seen 6.0s built that are put up against 6.7s and 7.3s and 6.4s. And the 6.0s, how they wind up and how they make power when they're modded and deleted, it is stupid. It's just that thing is ready to roll. The 1953 Ford Jubilee tractor, Red Tiger engine was the best engine. Okay. 3.5 Eco, it's a good vehicle. I mean, it's reliable and stuff if you can get past the timing chains. My first car was a 1986 Pontiac Firebird. I was, I don't know, 14, 15 years old. I tell a story about it sometimes. Like 14, 15 years old. And I found one down the street for $300. It was like $300 anyway, something small. I bought it. I rolled it down the hill because it was like you come out of the guy's driveway and then you turn right again. And it kind of started to veer downhill to my house. I rolled it right down the road. Rode right down the road in front of the house. And over the next 2 years, all I did was just build that thing, tear it apart, put it together, got a couple manuals and stuff to read. I started when I was 14 or 15. I love that car. It was my first car. It was the first easy car I ever worked on. It was a good car to learn on. And it was reliable. 1-843-6572. It was reliable. A friend of ours on here, Nathan on here, he's got also a channel. He was another Panther guy. He just junked a black town car. It was like an 03 black town car. And he thought he had lower miles on it than what he did. I don't know if they messed with something in the dash or something like that. And when he hooked the computer up to it to actually see what was going on with it, this thing had like 538 or 540,000 miles on it, and it still ran. And it sounded like it had a tick coming from the low end. Like it could have been a rod, but it also could have been a crack in the flex plate because I've seen a few of the flex plates on those crack. So I keep getting questions about schooling and how I got to where I'm at now. So when I got out of the military, I wanted to go to school. I got out of the military. I went up to Arkansas, Black River Technical College, to go to auto body school. I took auto body collision repair and, all that stuff. And you leave with a certification, but now they actually have it to where you can get an actual like diploma or engineering degree or something out of a couple-year program. And I think ours was only like 13 or 14 months long. So I started with that. And I got certified there. I left that place and I went to live in a man's home. And he turned a church into his own home. And he would travel the country. And he made custom poker chips for people at casinos, and they would buy bulk orders from him for him to show up at the casinos. But then he would still sell custom chips. So what I did was I started living in his home and building his 58 to 66 Thunderbirds. So the 390s, the 460s, the old 58 Thunderbirds that had like the front drum brakes as well as the back. We're talking about the Fat Boy swing away steering wheels, the swing away seats, the port windows in the back, the Landaus, the Roadsters and stuff. All I did was just build these cars. And we would go pick up, I went and picked up a 1964 Oldsmobile Starfire. I went and picked up an old three deuce, or what is it called? A three deuce, three two-barrel Cadillac. I was like on an old 50-some model Cadillac where it had 3 two-barrel carburetors on it. Well, went and looked at like an old Odes that had like a Hurst shifter and stuff that they modded and threw in the floor. And it was, I don't know if it was I don't know if it was a 440 or something like that in this thing. So we would travel the country buying these cars and bringing them back and then restoring them. But I only did it for a few years. I kind of got tired of being out in the middle of nowhere by myself. Nobody to talk to, wasn't dating anybody at the time. And I wanted to expand from there. So I went to college again. I told my dad I was going to come back home. And I went to UTI, Universal Technical Institute. I took their automotive program. I added the diesel program onto it. I added the MSAT program for international on it. I added the Ford FACT program, the Ford Accelerated Credential Training program on. And then I did that for years. And then I went off and worked for International. And International sent me to school to do more programs and stuff like that. I signed a contract with them as a guarantee that I would continue working for them for so long because they were paying for me to go to school. So I was still going to school and I was still working. And while I was going through all this, just like KQ said here, the GI Bill was paying for me to go through all this. And because of my military, it was taken care of. They were paying for my housing allowance. They were paying for my school and stuff like that. And then when I went to well, I hear that the new Max Force line, weren't they switching that to a Cummins line or something now? Because I remember the Max Force 11 and 13 and stuff like that. I was working on them all the time because they were always breaking down. They were always in the shop. I was always having to pull DPFs. I was pulling docks all the time. I was having to do the cleaning and stuff all the time. Just super, super nasty. So I was talking to anyway, back to what do you think is too young or too old to begin? Young, I don't think there's the thing for too young. Too old? You're gonna get me in trouble here. You're gonna really get me in trouble here. I talked to a gentleman last week that was in his early 50s, and he just started going to automotive school. He was like, I have a lot of years left in me. I feel good. I feel healthy. I don't feel like there's anything wrong. I want to try my automotive career out. I still move around good. I don't think there's an age for that. I've seen a lot of guys in their late 50s, early 60s still moving around like they're in their mid 30s. They're still doing great. But the majority, and I'm not going to lie about this, and this may hurt some feelings or whatever, but remember, facts don't care about your feelings, right? A lot of the guys in this field that are in their late 50s, early 60s, they're broke, man. These guys walk around with their hands all curled up. They're walking with a limp. They got a hunch in their back and stuff like that. They hurt every day from being on the concrete every single day. And they're not out of shape guys. They're guys that have been putting 30, 40 years of work in, and it's caught up to them. And they're ready to move on. A lot of them at that age are ready to retire. A lot of them, their hands are twice the size. I thought I had, smaller bear paws, but some of these guys that have been in the field for 30, 40 years, they put their hand up next to mine. It's twice the size of my hand, and they're no bigger than me. It's the work that they put in, the abuse and stuff that they've put their bodies through. So it's just a matter of more of how you feel. Our diesel tech, he's got health problems and stuff like that, but dude still moves around like a bullet. I mean, he just moves everywhere. He strong, tall, still in these engine bays and stuff, yanking motors like it's nothing. I see him start in the morning with a 4.6 or a 5.4 or like a 6.7. By that night, it's out on a stand and he's already pulling the cylinder heads off. Never seen anybody like this guy do this stuff. Like it's nothing. Knows where the bolts are, knows what the colors are for this, knows where the pins are for that. Just never seen anybody like this guy. The only other guy that I seen that close to him, and maybe we should pay some memory to him right now, some homage to him if we could, some respect to the guy, was who was the diesel guy that was big on YouTube? Wasn't his name like Diesel? He was a Ford guy, and he was phenomenal, man. Just watching his videos and stuff like that. Diesel Tech Ron, that's him. I love that guy, man. Every time I watch his videos, it would be like I was sitting there with him and he was teaching me. Ron, I worked through so many different situations just by watching that guy. And when I found out what happened to him, I was like, man, one of the smartest guys I ever seen on YouTube. One of the smartest guys. And I put him in the same category. Didn't he get into a car accident or something like that? I think that's what I heard. I didn't even know about it until like a year after. I was like, why am I not seeing his videos and stuff anymore? One of the brightest guys that I ever seen work on stuff. And then when I found out it was like a car accident or something like that took his life, I cried. I mean, I literally sat down with tears in my eyes because of what happened to him. I thought it was something to do with the car accident is what I remember, right? Are Ford hybrid systems reliable? Yeah, I mean, I've never, the 2.5 liter hybrids, I mean, the suckers run and 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 run. The older hybrids, like was like a 2010, 2011 model or something like that. I just had in the shop the other day, seeing it had like 400 something thousand miles on it. There's a guy at work right now. He's got like a 13 hybrid with a 2.5. This thing has got like 300 something thousand miles on it. It still runs like it's brand new. No problems at all. We've had no, I already covered the 3.0 V6 Ecoboost issues. I've seen no real problems with them. The only thing that I've seen is some computer updates and stuff. And I had to replace the knock sensor, coolant temp sensor harness in the center of the engine because it would flag a coolant overheat condition when it wasn't really overheating. It was just bad connection in the harness, and Ford does know about that. So leaving UTI, I had to figure out where I was going to go. I had all these options. So now you've got multiple schools: body school, automotive school, diesel school, international school, Ford school. I was like, what do I want to do now? Well, I want to go learn some refrigeration stuff. So I went to a local college and I started learning about refrigeration. I got my little refrigeration card and everything, got certified, and they were like, this is only good for automotive certification and stuff. So I was like, that's fine with me. So I actually held a AC refrigeration certification for automotive for a long time. And then when I got in the field, guys were like, you really don't need that. You just have to be certified through the manufacturer and have taken the air conditioning classes and everything else to actually do AC work. And I was like, well, I thought it was necessary to actually have like an EPA or something recognized card. And they were like, no, you just have to be certified through the manufacturer, how to use the machine safely and everything else, and how to dispose of things properly. So I had all of these certifications. I think with Ford, it was over. With body school, it was like right at 100 certifications. With Ford, it was like 115 certifications initially. With international, it was like 140 certifications. Then going back to Ford and getting like another 30 or 40 certifications by the time everything was said and done. I had this like pamphlet that's in storage of nothing but this giant binder of nothing but certifications upon certifications upon certifications. It's just, and it, like, this is ridiculous. I feel like my brain is fried by the time all this was done. And then when I started at another dealer, they were like, yeah, guess what? You're going to go back to school. Go to the training center. Send me to the training center for 4 or 5 days. Do all this training and stuff. Pay for a car. Give me money and food to live, a stipend to live off of. Come back. There's more certification. So it was like, it's nonstop. There's always something to learn. There's always something getting changed in this field. And yes, I did. I worked for a company in Southern Illinois, and I did nothing but work on excavators, earth moving equipment, dirt separators and stuff, like the big conveyors and stuff that they take out there, farm all cubs, the old cub cadets and stuff like that. The old the first one I did was a farm all cub wiring harness. The wiring harness that kind of went from like the starters, the switches, the lights and stuff like that. Then the guy that owned the company wanted me to strip everything down and repaint it. So I repainted it back to factory colors and stuff like that. Redid the upholstery and stuff on the leather seat that he had put on it. It was, then you would go from working for this guy, you would go from working on an old farm all cub in this barn to going out to the main lot where millions of dollars worth of equipment was and pulling it over to the main shop and then working on a Bobcat. Maybe the Bobcat's teeth were all screwed up and you had to cut and weld new teeth on or fit new teeth on depending on the type it was. So you're building a new bucket blade or putting new hydraulic lines or pressing new hydraulic lines. It's just constant learning all the time. So that's how I got to where I am now. Any issues with the 2019 Ford Ranger? I've had no issues with them. The only thing that came out with the Ranger when it first came out was there was a brake light issue where one of the pins, with one of the pins in the connector if you get up underneath the vehicle and you look on the driver's side frame rail, right where that little brace piece is, it's like an L-shaped brace. If you actually spin the bolts out of that, pull it out of the way, there's a big connector up on the frame rail. and one of the pins push out of the back of the connector, and it stops the brake lights from functioning. So what Ford basically wanted you to do, whenever you would get one in, you'd get it up on the rack, you'd grab the wires and you'd pull on them. You see if any of them come out of the connector, and that was checking to see if any of them were loose. And if there was one loose, you'd have to order a connector and then install a new connector on the vehicle. But that's pretty much it with that one. There's no real issues that I've seen with the Ranger. I think we had 1 or 2 Rangers in the last year where something was wrong with the heater box. They would put it on cold or they would put it on hot, and it actually wouldn't go. Like you'd have it on heat, but you'd switch it over to cold, but you couldn't get any cold out of it. Something was jamming up inside the heater box. So they literally had to pull the dash out of it and put a new heater box in it. I haven't seen any real big issues with a 2.3 EcoBoost. Now, if you're going to talk back on the Focus, what is it, the ST or something, 2.3 EcoBoost, I don't see many of those. They had the coolant intrusion issue where coolant was actually getting in the cylinders. I can't really comment too much on the auto start stop on this channel, to be honest with you. I have to watch and tread lightly. There's somebody much bigger than me watching what's being said and taken care of. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that the engine stops and starts and you haven't even really fully let the turbo spool down completely, and you haven't actually let the heat come down. You're on the highway, you get off the highway, you come up to a stop, auto start stop function, the turbo's still rolling. There's no oil pressure going to that turbo. You're just cooking that damn turbine. What are you gonna, auto start stop function to me, turn it off. Just remember every time you get into it to turn it off. Well, just remember whenever you get, so say you find your 2.3 liter EcoBoost Mustang, right, and you want to work on it. There's going to be a lot of stuff that goes along with working on that car. A lot of people don't understand once something's been in a collision, a lot of restraint events are stored in those modules. They don't just go away. You can't just hook a factory computer up and clear everything out and make it disappear. A lot of times in restraint control modules, you actually can send it to an electronic company to have it wiped out, but it's not even worth it at that point. Just pay the couple $100 for a new restraint control module and program it, put it in the vehicle. I've seen a lot of techs try to argue with me about that. Get a vehicle that's been in an accident, fix everything, everything's up to par, still have RCM codes in the computer, and I'm like, dude, replace the RCM. You replace the RCM, program everything, oh, guess what? There's no codes in the computer. Sometimes those codes are hard codes. They get stored in that computer. You can't wipe safety stuff like that sometimes. There are electronic companies that claim they can pull it out because that's what they specialize in, and factory computers won't be able to do that. I'm dealing with one right now that was bought at the auction. It's a 2020 Ford Mustang lime green 2.3 liter EcoBoost. They bought it at the auction. Didn't really see any of the work that was done, but you put the vehicle on a lift, you get it up in the air, and you look on an angle, and you can see all the crazy orange peel, just like the texture of an orange surface. And it's all wacky, out of this world. And you look down the rest of the vehicle, it's got a little factory orange peel in it, but it's normal. It's all smooth all the way down. Then you look back at the front bumper again, and you're like, this vehicle was in an accident. That explains the restraint code that's in the computer. That explains why when I activate my key on engine run test, my active grille shutters never stop moving. That explains why I have a code in the computer for my active grille shutters, because it was in a front end collision. They replaced the bumper, they took the old assembly, put it back on the vehicle, hoping that it wouldn't malfunction. Sure enough, got it through the auction, the people bought it, and now it's in my stall. Now I have to be the detective to say, this is a painted bumper, this vehicle was in an accident, the RCM does not want to release the codes in the computer, so you need a new RCM. You have to put a new RCM in this thing and program it. And you need a whole new active grille shutter assembly because you've messed up the potentiometer inside that shutter. So when it opens up and stops, it needs to know that that's the stop point, but it tries to keep going, and it'll like over limit itself. and then it'll roll back down, and then it'll roll back up, and then it'll roll back down, and it never stops, and it constantly just goes. Even with the key off, that thing seems to find its way to still run for a while before it shuts off, as long as those modules are still online before they go to sleep. And you're like, what the heck is this thing doing? It's still moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There's some things that, and then you have to be conscious of the crash sensors in the vehicle. So a lot of people and a lot of techs in the field think they understand how safety systems work. But when I actually go to talking about what I learned in body school and collision school and what I've used throughout the years, they see that they actually don't understand things quite like they think they understand things. In a crash event, you could be going 60 mile an hour, but hit something at the right angle, and only one of your crash sensors, the balls roll forward and make contact with the front. So there's like a little channel, there's a little ball inside, and it rolls forward and makes contact and completes the circuit. When it completes the circuit, there's an event, right? But if there's a second one, you have to have like a master and a second one. So when you have a master and the second one go off at the same time, it knows there's a reason for an airbag event. But if you only have one roll and complete the circuit, sometimes the airbags don't set. And a lot of people are like, I was in an accident, I have whiplash, I'm hurt, and all this other stuff. How come the airbags didn't go off? They're not always guaranteed to go off. It's not how it works. Well, no, I have not worked on a new Bronco yet. I think Ram trucks are reliable trucks, but if I got a Ram truck, I would disable the cylinder deactivation stuff immediately. I don't even care if it knocked it out of warranty. I think they have a phenomenal platform. I think the Hemi engine is a great engine. It's a little noisy. It's got a little tick, a little hiss starts at 60, 70,000 miles with the exhaust manifolds. Okay, I could live with that. It's a reliable platform. It's a great platform. But I don't like all this eco stuff they're starting to do now with the cylinder deactivation, lifters collapsing, grinding into the cam. I got one right now. It's a 2000, I don't know, 13 or 14 or something like that. The guy traded it in. He didn't even want to deal with it no more. And it literally will not stop misfiring on cylinder 5. All the other cylinders are completely fine. And I swapped coils around, known good coils, pulled plug, put good plug in, made sure injector and stuff was working fine. Doesn't matter. It's got a tick tap right over cylinder 5, and it doesn't even start to create a problem and start to misfire until that eco stuff activates. And once the cylinders start to drop out, the other ones come back online fine. That one, it does not want to come back online once it does it. It's like it's got a collapsed lifter or something in it, and it's making noise in that cylinder. It's a shit design. Also, what we had a 15 or something like that. It was a 15 with a cylinder deactivation. It also had to go to our Chrysler dealer to get fixed because, was it a 15? And even like the LS3 or whatever it is, one of the guys at work, he bought a 2015 Chevy 3500 from the auction with a workbox in it, with the lights and everything. Sounded great. Motor's only got 50 some or 60 some thousand miles on it. Strong motor. But once it warmed up a little bit, you hear that. And he was like, yep, I know what that is. I know exactly what that is. He's a wholesale mechanic. He's worked on random cars his whole entire life. Mercedes, any kind of European stuff. The dude knows what he's doing. He's really, really good. And he's worked on it. He's worked on a lot of Chevy stuff as well. And he's my age. The dude has worked on more varieties of cars as a wholesale mechanic than anybody I've ever seen. Now, I'm not saying he's the best I've ever seen, but the dude is just a walking encyclopedia. Now, when it comes to Ford stuff, he'll come grab me and say, hey, you want to come over here and help me? Absolutely. No problem at all. Because I know if I need you, and I know if I have a question on something else outside of a Ford or a Chevy or something, I know who I'm calling. You. So I go help him or whatever. But I watched some of the stuff this guy does, and he was like, I know what that is. That little light tap, tick, scrape sound? Yeah, it's a collapsed lifter. And then sure enough, the next day he pull the cam and everything out of it, lifters out of it. It wore the hell out. 2 of the lobes, just to where the lifter has collapsed and turned, wore a whole groove through the center of the lobe. So where the lobe is supposed to be nice and rounded at the top, like the egg shape, it's nice and round at the top like an egg shape, except it's got a complete different channel through the center of it where the lifter is turned sideways. And it's not even one of those eco issues. And it seems to be a common problem. The Chevy dealer next door, I know some of the guys over there, they're saying all the time, even brand new ones with 5,000 miles showing up at the shop for motors. So it's one of those, all the manufacturers have their issues. I think I have a video on that P0016. Okay. Planning on working on Ford's electric cars anytime soon, and how does Ford deal with electric vehicle assignment? Well, we have a guy in the shop. He's about to retire. He's an older guy, but he's worked on a lot of hybrids. So we prefer to give him the hybrid stuff. But I've been doing a lot of hybrid stuff lately, especially on like the old hybrid Escapes, the hybrid Fusions. So I've been getting my feet wet and getting into some more programming and how to deal with this and how to deal with that. So I'm coming up with that stuff. It's not easy to jump into because there's a lot of problems you can run into. The new hybrid Explorer, I think I've probably got arguably the most experience in my shop with the hybrid Explorer. I work on that thing more than I work on anything else. It is absolutely ridiculous. The cop car version, not the civilian stuff, the cop car stuff. So the way they beat those things and the way they treat those Explorers, it's kind of rough. And they sit there and they idle and they idle and they idle and they idle, and then they shut them down and they start back up, and it's always something with those things. The civilian Explorers, we don't really ever have them in for problems. It's all the police Explorers. Oh, I don't know. I mean, motors vary. Let me see here. I think you might get a kick out of this. I missed out on buying a dream truck of mine, a Chevy 2500 with a 7.5 liter or 7.4 liter 454 with 0 rust. What would you pay for that? 120,000 miles, 454. I would probably think that truck would probably go for something around like 10 grand, 8 to 10 grand in really good shape. Maybe that's a little high for 120,000 miles, but I think it would safely for 10 grand for sure. But again, that's just me kind of thinking back on what I've paid for things and stuff in that era. 7.4 liter 454, 2,500 with 120,000 miles. I don't think that I would pay more than 10 grand. Thinking about it, that's about what I would pay. Oh, wow. Free stars. Now, I don't know if I got some of the older text on here. Free stars. Is that the one that had the axle in the back, the tandem that would snap on each end, and you'd have to put a sleeve over it and then bolt it all down? I think there was one of them, the Ford minivans. Yes. And you'd have to sleeve a Windstar. I wonder if the Windstar and the Freestar had that. Okay, Windstar. I wasn't sure what it was. I don't really see them. I know we have one. We have one that comes to the shop faithfully, and he's had to have it replaced twice. And he refuses to get rid of the vehicle. He just put a new rear end in it or whatever, put a new tandem in it. I don't care. I love the Ford Flex. I think a lot of people think I'm silly for this, but I think the Ford Flex is it's kind of a stylish vehicle. It's kind of sporty. It's kind of soccer mom looking, yet at the same time, you get that 3.5 Ecoboost one or whatever it is. I think it's a 3.5 Ecoboost, right? That sucker moves, man. That sucker will roll. And it's comfy, yeah. I don't, what is the, just off the top of your head, P001 or P0016, what is that? I mean, maybe we could talk about it now. What's the name for that code? I don't remember every code. So sometimes when people say P0016, I'm like, P0016? What's the name? I don't remember them all. O2 Bank 1. O2 sensors, ambient air temperature. Some of those actually had bad connections. Some of those I could actually, depending on whether, if it's the one I'm thinking of, I've had to redo the connectors on a lot of them as well. Camshaft position set for bank 1 does not correlate to the signal from the crankshaft. And what was that on? What was it set in though? Cam crank correlation. Did I get that when I did one of those Ecoboost engines and I didn't do that neutral profile correction relearn? Or was that one that I had a timing chain slip on? It was like it slipped a tooth or two or something like that and it popped up. I'm like going through all these jobs that I've done in my head and it's like going diesel. SN95 Mustangs are phenomenal. One of the best fun Mustangs you will ever own. Cheap, doesn't make a lot of power unless you build it. Fun, can beat the living hell out of it, whip it around corners, a track, whatever it is. They perform, they're good. 90s OBS Bronco was sexy. Let's give it a word, sexy. Oh, the best Ram truck, I think, what is that, Gen 2, the V10 or the 5.9 Cummins? I like big displacement motors because I've never really had a reason to have a diesel, but the V10 a lot of guys prefer because the maintenance is less. It hauls a shit ton. It can do a lot of work, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. In the military, one of my really good buddies had one of those Dodge Ram V10s, and he would beat the living hell out of that thing, and it would just run. The V10 Excursion, man. If I could get my hands on a V10 Excursion, I probably would never buy another vehicle again. I would just keep building it over and over and over and over again. The Excursion was, to me, in the big SUV line, the Excursion was the sexiest SUV that held that kind of that prowess, that premise of stance and aggressiveness out of all of the SUVs in a large line that I've ever seen. How about the Mopar 3.8 engine? I've had to do coolant leaks on them, but I don't have a lot of experience with the Mopar 3.8s. So about that 7.3 Excursion. So can we talk FordBossMe@gmail.com? I do have some experience with Japanese cars. My first viral video on YouTube was, what was it? 2008 to 2012 or something. What is that body style Honda Accord? My mother went to the Honda dealer, and the Honda dealer kept saying, "Oh, you're gonna need phasers and this and that and everything else, and it rattles on startup." And it's then my father started doing it shortly after it. They both bought 2009 Honda Accords with a 2.4 liter, and every time they would start the vehicle, and then it would quit. It was fine, run like a top, no problem at all. They weren't fast; they were just reliable, right? And it would just run and run great. My parents loved it. My parents, they went from American cars because American cars kept breaking down all the time. Well, they went to a Honda Accord and they run them up to 100,000 miles and never have to take them to the dealer other than oil changes and air filters and stuff like that. Well, right at 90,000 miles is when my mom started making the rattle on startup. And then my dad's right at 100,000 miles started making the rattle on startup. And they're getting the runaround from the dealers and everything else. Oh, you need this, you need that, you need this. I started doing some research and stuff on the internet, and then I start looking at all the Ford stuff on how it functions. And I was like, stuff functions very, very similar. Let's start with the least intrusive repair first, and then we'll move on to something more intrusive if I have to do like timing set or whatever. So I got a buddy that's a Honda guy, and he refused to believe me when I told him sometimes on the F-150s, the 3-liter Ecoboost. The 5-liter can get correlation codes and stuff, or like it'll set a code with the VCT solenoid. And then some of the Chevys and stuff that I've worked on, same thing with the VCT solenoid. Some of them I pull them out and there's actually cam debris and stuff or motor debris in the actual solenoid. And I tell people all the time, I can clean the solenoid out and replace it and stuff like that, but it's only a matter of time that you have on this engine. I mean, when you're getting internal engine component parts, shavings in your screen of your VCT solenoid, your days are numbered with this. You could leave here right now, or you could leave here and run this thing for another 5 years. You don't know. But when your engine is in your screen of your solenoid, there's a problem. So I went to my mom and I said, you know what I want to do? I want to go get a Napa solenoid. I'm not going to go get the Honda one. I'm going to go get a Napa one. And I'm going to clean everything, take the little solenoid out of the side of the head. Or is it head or the block, wherever it mounts right there. It's like right down underneath the power steering pump. It's like an 8 or 10 millimeter bolt that holds it in. And then the pre-screen's right on the front of the block, right behind the power steering pump on the other side. I pull the pre-screen off, or a little filter screen thing. I just call it a pre-screen. I make up my own names. I clean it out real good, clean off the gasket and stuff like that. I take some motor oil and just lube it up, put it back down, lightly snug it up, take the solenoid out of the side, pop it out. I had to use like a little screwdriver to get up against the solenoid because there's no room to work in it. Change the engine oil to a good quality engine oil and actually factory filter with an anti-feedback diaphragm instead of one of these cheap Lube Tech place ones. And spin the filter back on, pre-filled, fill up the engine with some good clean oil, start the vehicle up. It rattled the first startup. I shut it back off, let it sit there for the rest of the day, came back out, started up again, no rattle. The next day, no rattle. A month later, no rattle. 2 months later, no rattle. It didn't have to go through a timing set and all this other stuff. It was as simple as the solenoid was starting to fail and it just needed to be replaced. That was it. And it needed good oil and it needed an anti-feedback diaphragm quality filter. That was it. Oh, it happens all the time on those engines. I get them at the shop all the time. You know, a lot of people praise those Honda 2.4 liter engines like they're the next best thing since sliced bread, you know. They're not. They're good engines. They're reliable engines, but they have their problems too. I get them with leaks. I get them with belt tensioners going out prematurely, 10, 15,000 miles on the vehicle, already starting to rattle. People hate the way the transmission shifts sometimes. I mean, they all have their problems. Ford has their problems. Chevy, Dodge, they all do. Toyota, we had a Toyota Tundra come into the shop. It had 16,000 miles on it. The front cover had oil all over the front of it. The oil pan had oil all down the back side of it. I was surprised that this brand new truck had oil all over the place. A month later, a guy traded in one. He said, I'm tired of this thing. It doesn't do what I want it to do. I needed one of these. He ended up getting like a 6.2 liter in an F-250. Custom ordered it from the dealership. Traded in this Toyota with only 20-some thousand miles on it. The truck was gorgeous. Probably one of the nicest trucks that I've ever driven in. One of the most comfortable trucks on the road. A ton of freaking power in this thing, man. Just really shocked me how this thing got up and moved. But it was leaking all over the place. Jeep 4.0, probably one of the strongest engines ever made, but they do have their failures. What is the one we have right now? My service manager just bought one. Cherry, I'm talking like no rust from like this area in Illinois, at least I think anyway. No rotten frame, no rotten body anywhere. Still has like brand new looking paint and stuff on it. It's got a big set of nice aggressive like off-road tires and stuff on it. I did a video on what technicians here at the shop drive not too long ago, and you can actually see it in that video. He paid $3,000 for this thing. $3,000. And it's got some oil pressure problems. It's not reading oil pressure until you actually get into the throttle a little bit, and then oil pressure will come back up. So, and you know, they were known for, what did one of the guys at the shop say? He said, I've had 2 of those, and one of them, the cylinder head or head gaskets or something like that leaked. It's not hard to change anything. Kind of, they're not super hard to work on, but they do have their issues. They're just strong motors. Dodge 6-speed. Ford 10-speed or Dodge 6-speed for towing? Dodge 6-speed, hands down. I'm sorry. I like to be able to control what's going on with the vehicle a little bit more than having all these gears hunting back and forth. With a 6-speed, you kind of know what to expect when you're in a certain range, and you already kind of got a feel for what the transmission is going to do. You already know how to engage throttle response and stuff like that based on load and how to keep it where you want it. With the 10-speed, it's still so new with these big power applications like this. When, what was it, the trucking guys or whoever it was, or car and driver or something like that, took the 6.7 liter 10-speed and put it up next to the Cummins with a 6-speed, and it was like that 32,000 pound or something Pikes Peak challenge or whatever it was. I don't know what the hell it was. Of some mountain where they were towing 32,000 pounds, and they ran them, and the Dodge, even though it was a 6-speed and it made a little bit less power, stayed with that Ford time-wise the entire time and finished like less than a second. It wasn't even a full second to the top of that. And they were like, you save yourself $10,000, $15,000 and you can buy basically the same package here in this Dodge that does the same thing. At TFL maybe, yeah. It was the Gauntlet or something like that. Here's the thing though, little disclaimer. You're paying for what you get. I do not like the way a Dodge rides compared to a Ford. A Ford has that nice luxury feel to it. When even in the more aggressive, you know, diesel trucks and stuff like that, it has a nicer ride to it. I feel more comfortable inside. I don't feel like it's so cheap and stuff like that. But the Dodges make me have this sense of I'm sitting in a cheap dollar store interior. I hate the interior of the Dodges. I sit there and it's just cheap, rounded, soft-edged, plasticky stuff all over the place, and I absolutely hate it. But I sit in the Fords and I'm like, oh, this is freaking nice, man. It's real nice. So even the Fords have like a lot of plastic stuff, but their leather seems to be a little thicker. It seems to not be so cheap looking inside. Everybody has their quirks. I sit in like the Chargers and Challengers and stuff like that. Even in the higher end stuff like the Hellcats that I've been in, when we get like SRT trade-ins and stuff like that or whatever, I sit in these things and I'm like, well, these things perform. And they roll, man. They roll. They're fast. One of the scariest SUVs I ever been in was that Trackhawk. We had one traded into us, and that thing was nasty. I left the dealership parking lot, and I was going on a test drive to just test drive the vehicle to see how everything functioned, so we didn't put a bad product out for the customer, right? Well, that was fast. 10, 15 mile an hour just sitting there. I matted that bastard. I had to. There was no way I could not do it. I had to know what everybody was talking about. And it was like 40 or 50 feet of stripes down the road, and I had to get out of it. I just matted it. Boom! And the guys in the dealership, when I got back, they're all standing out there and they're shaking their heads and they're smiling at me. And I was like, what, man? I had to try this thing out. And it didn't matter. And that thing will hook up too, though. It was just because of how I was rolling and laid into it. Oh, man. It made me feel sick to my stomach. It made me feel like my intestines was wrapped around my spine. Yeah, it was yes, all-wheel drive. I would love to do 60s and 70s Mopar. There's a lot of stuff I didn't even get to tonight, guys. I'm sorry because so much stuff popping up. Yep, I agree. 93 Cobra said Chrysler interior has always been cheap and noisy to boot. I agree with that. The only interior that I actually kind of felt a little comfortable in, like that I actually liked with Chrysler, and don't shoot me, there's a reason why I tried to buy that Chrysler Concorde LXI from the auction, and I got screwed. The oil pump needed to be replaced. The lifters needed to be replaced. There was so much stuff in that motor that needed to be replaced. But what they did was they dumped an additive in it. I think it was like liquid glass or something like that to get it to quieten up until I got like a mile down the road. And then basically I realized I was screwed. I felt comfortable in that interior on that car. It didn't seem like super, super cheap like the rest of the Chrysler stuff that I've been around. You know, that's one thing. That's one thing I like about Ford. The style is always nice. The truck always looks really, really good. They don't put out these cheesy, my opinion, don't shoot the messenger. These new Silverados look like garbage. I cannot stand the way they look. It looks like somebody took like a Transformer plastic action figure and then stuck it in the front end of a Silverado, and they call that's. I cannot stand the way these things look, where the lower bumper comes up over the side, and then it looks like another piece comes out and jets up over the lights and stuff like that. And the way the grill and stuff's integrated, I'm like, oh my God. Ugly, 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 ugly. I know. I knew somebody was going to say something about those headlights when they look like Transformers. They do. Ford does real good with styling. They do real good with making power. They do real good with giving people the features and stuff that they want and not making them super cheesy. It's just a matter of keeping them online without the sync system kicking them off. I mean, the number one thorn in Ford's side for years has been that, well, I don't know about number one, but close to number one is that sync system. Once they passed like sync 1 and went to like 2 and then really 3, it all fell apart. And I ask older guys in the field, like, why are we dealing with this right now? Why hasn't anything been changed? And I don't know if the stories are completely true, because you're actually getting the stories from guys that have probably got the stories from somebody else. But a lot of people say it's because Ford went from an actual reputable electronics company like Motorola or somebody like that made these, and they functioned, they were great, they didn't melt, they never had issues. But then when things started going cheaper and cafe standards and stuff started going up, they started to figure out who they're going to sign with now. And then they go to another electronics company for the cheaper bid, not for the better quality, but for saving money, overhead wise. And that's a lot of the reasons why we're dealing with the stuff we are now with these electronics, is because they're cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And then when you're putting pressure on vendors to get you products at a certain price and they can't match that, they have to find somebody else who can. And it just keeps getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Thanks, Stick. I appreciate that. You're right. Chris said the Ford trucks and cars look great, but the 6.0 and 6.4 trucks, they had a lot of issues. If you wanted one of the best riding diesel trucks on the road and performing diesel trucks on the road, you would get a 6.0 or a 6.4 and you delete it. ARP studded, whatever you got to do, EGR deleted, straight pipe it, the thing would never quit. It would never quit, never have a problem. But it's these standards, the standards that we have to deal with, CAFE standards, the regulations, and then people are trying to adhere to that. But on top of that, as a consumer, you have to understand that you want more and more and more, and they're sensitizing you. Listen to me when I tell you this. You're not going to hear this from a lot of people. They're giving you the things that you think you want, that you didn't ask for, and then you become accustomed to them to sensitize you to having them. So when you don't want them, you really do want them. And they keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And then guess what happens? Now you want this fully loaded vehicle with all these options and stuff like that. No, you don't. You never wanted that. You've been conditioned. And that's what people end up. It's a game. It's a game that society plays. They condition people to do what they want them to do and want what they want them to want. It's like a child growing up. You try to give them a piece of pepperoni pizza or something like that, and they look at you like, oh, that's gross. That's gross. I just want cheese pizza. Well, why? Well, mom doesn't like pepperoni pizza. Well, mom has conditioned daughter, or dad has conditioned daughter or son to not want to eat pepperoni pizza. So they automatically think they don't like pepperoni pizza. And it almost makes them sick to their stomach because they don't want to eat pepperoni pizza. They've been conditioned. I'm like, hey, Sarah, come over here for a second. Sit down with me. Try this. Do I have to? Yes, you do. I want you to try it. It's not going to hurt you. Not going to make you sick. Try it. And then they're like, oh, that's pretty good. Can I have another piece? Can I have another piece? Because they were conditioned. That's how life is. It's not the same. There's nothing different about the automotive industry or the computer industry or television or anything. That's how life is. Bullnose Fords do look the best. You may have already. Let's see. Let me go back here. Yeah, the whole Sync 3 system is a nightmare. I have no idea if the electronic power steering assembly will work. A lot of people ask me stuff like that. I was doing a mod. It was a factory mod it was a Mustang or something like that. Oh, what it was I was dropping the trans in a GT350. So I can't specify the name on camera, but there's a company that does really exclusive heavy-duty testing on vehicles. And they come to the dealership and they drop off their cars after they get done doing their testing. They beat the living hell out of these cars to see what they can take. They do a lot of writing reviews on them and stuff like that. And they dropped the GT350 off at the dealership. They gave me the car and they said, look, you got to pull a trans on this and do all this other stuff. There's an updated shifter assembly and stuff that goes in this vehicle. And there was a guy asking me if he could take the four-wheel drive system out of an Explorer because it had a better gear set, or It's like a better gear set and CV axle spline count or something like that. And he wanted to take it and stick it in an older, I don't know if it was like a Thunderbird or something. It was he does mod stuff. He'll take new type technology and stick it in old vehicles and make it work. I don't, hell if I know, man. I don't do stuff like that. I love those old Toyota pickups. I pictured like the movies where it's like out in the desert or like down on the Mexico border or something like that. You see them little pickups all over the place, just toting people back and forth and everything else. Tell us a joke. Huh. The jokes that I tell are not they're not clean jokes. My uncle used to say what did he say? What do you call a blonde standing on her head? A brunette with a bad hair day? Yeah, he's a dirty old man. Or he would say he used to sing. My great uncle used to roll around the house and on his little scooter, and he would sing these old songs from back in the day, and he would say stuff like. I guess it was. I guess it was an old Super Coupe or something like that. Um, how can I spot a good dealership from a bad dealership? When the service department is not attached to the sales department, you found the right one. Which means you know the answer to that. If you were being serious, I don't know if that was a joke or not. I was trying to finish your joke if that was a joke. That could be a joke. Um, Advice for young people. Um, yeah, Austin's right. Only through reviews. But even at that, that's not even accurate, though. There's a lot of. So let me explain something to you guys before you. I don't want you to ever get bent out of shape about me. I'm a vet. I'm all about this country. I do support our police officers and stuff, but I'm not all about the shit that goes on with them. Overall, I know we need them, but I know there's a lot of reform that has to happen and things that need to take place. I get that, but I still have to have a level of respect for those that protect me, right? Somebody tried to turn it into a political thing earlier, and I was like, stop. You asked me what I believed, and that's what I believe, and that's all we need to talk about. Whenever, what did somebody say so I can get back on thought? Reviews. Somebody asked me a question online one time about what I thought about a certain political group or something like that, and I answered the question honestly, very to the point, very firm, and I didn't bullshit with it. I gave them exactly what they were asking for, and I said, that's what you want me to tell you? You want me to tell you the truth? Here's the truth. This is what I think. I gave them an honest answer, and I wasn't disrespectful. What did they do? They contacted my dealer and told my general manager that I was some kind of racist white piece of shit. And I was like, who? I was like, I don't understand, Mike. My mother in foster care that raised me, the one that I still call mom today, is black. Miss Johnson raised me through foster care. My brothers and sisters were black. I went to an all-black school. I was the only white dude going to the school. I'm racist? What do you mean? Well, some girl said you were having a conversation on Facebook and you offended her and that they can't believe I said, what are you talking about? Most of my friends are Hispanic and black. I have a handful of white friends. Most of my friends literally are Hispanic and black. I'm racist. So you got to be careful where you get your reviews and stuff from. You have to be careful about the type of people that deal with those dealerships in those areas and stuff like that, because people out of spite leave bad reviews. Just out of spite. You could do one thing wrong or not give them something that they want or tell them don't come back and they leave bad reviews. And then you get these social justice warrior groups or something like that that will find an employee that works somewhere, and just because they don't like that employee, that whole entire group will go trash that business page. So don't always go off of reviews on whether or not an establishment is worth putting your time into it. Be very cautious with that. What you do, and I tell people this all the time, if you want to find a good service department, go somewhere and get your oil changed. Go get your oil changed and notice the people that are in that service department and try to go back on the same day for your next oil change. If it's a Monday, go back on a Monday at the same day and about the same time. See if you see the same people in that quick lube lane. See if you see the same techs out there in the shop, and do it again. Give it a couple shots. If you see the same people in that establishment working there, continue going there. When was this last one? The last one was like 3 weeks ago or something like that. So the next Cars and Coffee, it's every 6 weeks is what they're doing. But I'm thinking about trying to do one of my own, like in between those. So like every other weekend, something's going on if I had enough people that were willing to be there. Yeah. I don't use Instagram. I don't use Facebook anymore. I know I should get back on those because there's a lot of yeah, we put on a Cars and Coffee. The last one we hosted like 3 weeks ago, and we had about 50 some cars show up. The one before that was about 75 cars. It's getting bigger, but the last one was smaller because the rain clouds were rolling in, and it actually started to drizzle a little bit, but then it all cleared. And people were just preparing for the worst by not showing up with their nice, expensive cars. And there was some really nice cars that showed up, like an old Thunderbird with the original Autolite battery. One guy showed up with a Camaro with a it's like, what was that, a 472 big block or something like that, or there was a 396 Nova SS. This guy said if he's not scared to daily the car, it's a driven vehicle. He said it's not something that just is parked at my house all the time, but it always looks this nice, just gorgeous looking ride. So, advice for new techs? Let me turn the comments off for a second so I can think about this and get. Is this going to bother me? Okay, so I have comments hidden right now so I can think about this and be as sincere as possible. Advice for new techs. Stay hungry. Whenever you're not busy in quick lane, you need to be with one of the other master techs in the shop helping them. Never sit idle. Never sit idle. There's always something to be done. If you're slow, you need to be figuring something out with one of the other techs that are actually working. What do you need help? Do you need me to drop that oil for you? Do you need me to pull the tires off? Hey, do you mind explaining what you're doing while you're there? They might think that it's annoying at first, but guess what? Their paycheck is not your paycheck. You still have to earn a living too, right? So the more knowledge you know, the better off you're going to be, the more asset you are to those guys. And if they see that you're wanting to help, you're willing to help, and you're going to close your mouth and learn, and then ask questions after they explain, they're going to be more they're going to be more apt to go to bat for you when it comes to raises, and whenever the service manager comes out and says, "Hey, so how do you think Sean's been doing over the last few weeks? How do you think Alex has been doing over the last few weeks? How do you the last 4 months, 3-4 months or something? What do you think about him?" Oh, that guy's gonna be like, "Oh, he's a fucking idiot. He's on his phone all the time. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's always screwing off and disappearing from in the service area and stuff. We don't ever know where he's at when we need him or something." Or are you gonna be the guy that Luke is our new guy. Sir Joe came out and we're talking, and it was like, he's great, man. He's a good kid. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He just keeps working. He doesn't bother nobody. You need help, he's there to help you right away. Not disrespectful at all. Stays busy. If he sees a trash or something needs to be taken out, he just takes it out. He doesn't ask no questions or anything. He just does it. He does what he's supposed to do to keep moving. He's always asking, "Oh, what are you doing there? What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" Always asking questions. Respectful. Respect is a huge thing. A lot of these young kids that come into these dealerships, they're emotional. They got chips on their shoulders. Well, my dad taught me this, and my uncle taught me that, and this. Stop. Just stop. Those guys are smart. They're good. We're not trying to take anything away from them. They more than likely don't do the dealership life. There's a process that we have to go through. There's a way that we diagnose things. My uncle, great guy. Let's go off a little bit of a sidestep here. Great guy, smart, rebuilt transmissions, motors, and everything his whole life. When I was putting my first 86 C10, 1986 C10 pickup truck on a rotisserie, walnut shelled, painted 2009 GMC Storm Gray, Ford 9-inch rear end, Mickey Thompson slicks, 4-bolt main, small block 355, board 30,000, so 355, run about 200 shot through it, Demon carburetor, Wien high-rise intake, or was that Wien single plane intake, whatever it was. A lot of money in this thing. This little small block 355, 450, 500 horse motor, but we pushed it, every bit of it out. We could have got more out of it too. We're building a motor for this thing. Just true story still to this day. I never took apart the motor after we built it. He would take the main bearings and he would dip them in oil and let them soak overnight. And the next day, he would take those main bearings and put them in the block wet and install them. And then put crank and everything else in and built the motor. That's how he built the motor. He didn't believe in putting a bearing in a motor without oil on the backside. Years later, I found out the guy I sold that truck to spun a main bearing. Just because the old school guys were, they were good and they were knowledgeable and they knew how to do all that stuff, doesn't mean everything that they did was right. Doesn't mean everything that I do is right. That's not how you put a main bearing in a block. It needs to be clean and dry. That bearing has to mate with that crosshatch so it can actually bed itself, so it can seat properly. You don't install main bearings wet. Eventually that's what happened. But I was too young at the time to know any better, and I was still kind of newer in the field, in the industry. I'd only been doing this a few years. So I listened to what he said because he was my elder, right? He's the guy helping me build this thing. I wasn't doing it by myself. I listened to him. So what your dad and your uncle and everybody else knew, keep it. Use it as information. But now you're in a completely different atmosphere. Completely different. Things are done different. Troubleshooting's different. There's a different paperwork procedure. The power of the pen is what's going to get you paid 99.9% of the time. Learn how to write good. Learn how to type not long stories, but concise stories. Pinpoint stories. Verified customer concern. Found this. These are codes in the computer. Check TSBs, service messages, campaigns, whatever. Found TSB this that basically states this is what refers to the customer's problem. Performed this TSB. Customer concern is now fixed. Vehicles in an operating state. Safe to be on road. Return to customer. No problem or no further problem. Whatever. I write pinpoint, right to the point stories, and I learned this from guys that are in the field. Stop wasting time. Stop trying to write your whole life story in there. Pinpoint to the point, get it done, refer to everything, learn from these guys when that happens. That's the best thing for young techs to do. Tools. You ain't got to go crazy buying all these expensive tools. We got a guy at work right now, Alex, you're watching this, I know. He'll buy every tool under the sun as a lube tech. He's probably got more tools as a lube tech than any lube tech I've ever seen. Doesn't use 75% of the tools that he buys, but he loves buying tools. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to do that. I guess you'll have them when you move up if you're serious enough, but you don't have to do that. Don't abuse the whole, put yourself in a financial situation because you're buying too many tools. You don't have. Get your basic stuff done. Get the essentials that you need. Your filter wrenches, screwdrivers, different sets of pliers and stuff like that. A couple magnetic screwdrivers, like little pocket ones and stuff. Get the tools to the extent of get you a nice impact. Get a torque wrench. Get a damn torque wrench. Get a torque wrench, please. Get a torque wrench. Don't get no damn torque sticks. I know some of you like using torque sticks, but get a torque wrench, like a double beam torque wrench. Tire tread depth gauge. Get your brake depth checker and stuff like that. Actually, don't be lazy about your job. If you're checking brakes, don't only look at the outboard pad, because a lot of times the pin will lock up and the piston will do most of the pushing on the inboard pad, and the inboard pad will be wore out. The outboard pad will look brand new, and then you'll go right up. Oh, it's got 830 seconds. No, it doesn't. Have you not looked at the inboard pad? Or it's at 8 millimeter. No, it's down to like 1 or 2 millimeter. There's no pad left almost. Yeah, I don't know what you're smoking, but obviously you're not doing your job. Just don't be lazy about things. Actually do a thorough check. Get yourself a little extendable mirror. You can put it back up in there and look. You can hang it up over the top of the brake calipers. You can actually look at the top slot and see what the brake depth is. Go back to the bottom, look at the bottom of it. It'll tell you what the depth of the pad is. And that's not being lazy. You're actually checking it from the back side and the front side. So my advice is don't be lazy. Don't overly purchase tools. If you don't have the money for it, don't do it. Always be hungry. Ask questions. Always ask about training in school. Stay on your service manager's ass about going to school. Literally, be the most annoying tick on his ass that you've ever seen before. Every time you get a chance, hey, that electronics class open up yet? You got me on that list? You got me on that list? You got me on that list? Your paycheck doesn't, all the other guys in the shop, they're not writing your paycheck. You're the one that's writing your paycheck, right? You want to make more money? The rest of the guys in the shop, I don't care how much you like them or whatever, they only go so far for vouching for you. What's going to show is your work and how much you push to actually move up in the company. There's a lot of dealerships out there, so there's a lot of independent shops that leave their little guys hanging. Now, they'll leave them in a lube tech lane for years. Bullshit. That stuff needs to stop. You need to stop forgetting about the little guy. Know that he's there and he wants to move up as well. And it doesn't take years to move up. If you've been a lube tech for 3 or 4 years and you've actually shown, and you know without a shadow of a doubt, everybody around you supports what you've done and the time and effort that you've put in, and you've tried to make an impact and a change, and that dealership still hasn't looked at moving you out of that slot, leave. Go somewhere else. That is not the dealership for you. They're not looking out for you. I'm telling you, that's how it is. If you're busting your butt and you're doing everything you can, you're showing you want to go to school and you're working your way up, it's not the dealership for you, because you ain't going to make it that way. It's not going to happen. There's a lot of shops in general. They'll find some guy, unless that's what you want to do. Unless you're getting increases in your pay wage, but you're not moving up like tier-wise, semi-skilled or something like that, but you're staying in the lube tech lane. So you can move up from a lube tech slot to like a supervisor lube tech, get $1 or $2 more an hour. That's okay. Sure. You're moving up. You're now showing a little bit more responsibility and stuff like that, or that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But always remember progression. If you ever feel like you're being held down, if somebody's not letting you progress, if somebody's not letting you get better, speak up. Ask for it to change. If it doesn't change and you do it multiple times, you know what you need to do. That feeling that you feel inside you is probably going to be more true to you than anybody else being in your ear telling you what to do. That gut instinct that you have about, look, man, I've been doing this for so long and I just don't feel like I'm making any progression here and I'm trying to do everything that I can to get better and you're not getting better, you know what to do. It's not the place for you. But if you're like some of the people I see in the field, they don't really care if they move up. It's easy to change oil for $16, $17 an hour. I'm okay with that. Some of them like living at home with mommy and daddy for the rest of their life. Some of them like not having nicer stuff. They're okay with that. They get comfortable doing that. They don't want any extra responsibility and stuff. If that's your thing, do what it takes to stay there. But if you're wanting to move up, you're wanting to be smarter, you're wanting to get more involved with things, you're wanting to have a nicer life and actually feel what it's like at $40 an hour, you got to do that. Ain't nobody going to do that for you. This world does not care about how you feel. Do it. Be annoying. Ask questions. Try to get in the training classes and stuff like that. Don't overly spend money on things that you don't need, that you're never going to pull out of that box. And never sit still. Don't be one of these guys that's on your phone all the time looking on, oh, my Coyote engine. Man, I gotta get that new oil cap, that 710 cap, man. And always in the phone, scrolling. Unless you're a YouTuber like me, you ain't got no reason to be on your phone. I see it all the time. I see guys in the shop I work at now all the time. Oh, I gotta go back to that phone. My girl, she's like, you haven't messaged me all day. I know, because I'm making money and I'm making YouTube videos. When I go to work, this is my job, and working is my job. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on 710ho.com. I'm not on back pages or any of that other stuff. I'm working. I'm making videos about cars, and I'm working. That's what I do. But I go over, oh, what are you looking at? Oh, it's a new recipe. It's a new gym workout. It's a new thing for my car or whatever. I want to put the little linking caps on my valve stems and stuff. And bro, you ain't got nothing to do. You can't be working right now. You can't help out. Like, I got 2 more vehicles sitting outside right now that hasn't even been looked at right now. I need somebody to pull it in right this second and pull codes on it now. And if you would have came to me and you would have asked me what I need done next, I would have told you, go ahead and pull the vehicle in now, run the codes on it, and let me know what you find. Give me a printout. But instead, you're standing over there on your phone, not doing nothing. And these guys know when they watch these, if they see this video, they will tell you this is how I am. I'm nice, I'll help, but I don't like BS. I don't like people standing around not doing nothing. That's how all the guys in my shop are. If we see somebody standing around or whatever, we'll let them stand around a little bit. It's not the highest paying job in the world, so we give them a little slack. But if it gets excessive and there's a lot of clowning around and stuff like that, we'll speak up. Hey, go get this customer's vehicle in right now and get it in here, let it run. I need to check for AC pressures, hook up the AC machine for me and all that other stuff. And I'll get them rolling. I'll get them moving on doing something. I just showed one of the lube techs the other day. He didn't know how to use the trans flush machine. I walked him through the whole entire process because he asked for help. Then the other guy asked me, how do you use this AC machine? I got to pull my car in here. Sure, no problem. Let's go. Pull his car in here, pull his mom's car in, showed him how to evac everything, check for leaks, got the UV light out, showing him how to check for all that. Bleed down procedure, if you do too short of an evacuation and then all of a sudden it starts to come back up right away, say you evac the system for, first recovered it and then you evacuated it and it's sitting in a vacuum for 5 minutes, all of a sudden you set it for a 5-minute vacuum, the needle starts to come back up, you didn't evacuate that system enough. A lot of times when that needle starts to come back up, it's because there's still moisture in the system. It needs to be in a vacuum longer. So, pull 20 minutes of vacuum on it or something. If you're not in a hurry, put it in a vacuum for 20 or 30 minutes. Some places will say they won't let it come out of a vacuum for 45 minutes. I've seen some crazy stuff. I'll put in about a 15-20 minute vacuum and try to get a feel for what's going on. If it's something that's really contaminated and I've had to clean it out a lot and the system's been open, I might go 20 or 30 minutes. But I showed him how to use this machine from start because he asked for help. And now he knows how to use the machine. I'm sure he's going to forget something and come back. But this is how young guys get started in the field. This is how they get hungry. This is how they move up. I showed some Sean last week and Luke. I don't know if Luke was a part of it or not. I was showing them how to do the 20C19 recall on the Explorers and stuff like that, the backup camera, because he asked for help. He wanted to actually learn because he's done enough online training and stuff now and did enough certifications and stuff at school because he's in a Ford program as well, or he was. I think he may have graduated already. That he's now eligible to start doing that stuff. Well, why wait? Why be the guy in the shop that doesn't give them ever give them an opportunity to show and showcase their skill, what they can do? Well, come over here. Let me show you how to take this apart on the back of this car. Let me show you how to take the camera and stuff out of this. This is what you got to do. This, and this, and this. Well, let's walk through it now. And then we actually do it. And we go to the computer, hook up FDRS, go into FDRS, BCM, LIN module initialization, activate the camera, run through the process, check for codes, make sure you clear your codes, put the vehicle in reverse. The lines show up in the camera. If the lines don't show up in the camera, you're probably going to have to go back and reprogram that module again because sometimes that's what happens. There's even a service message out that talks about sometimes the programming won't succeed if you don't program IMPB instead of just IMPA. Like some programming needs to see the other one programmed as well. Even though that module's not on board, it has to be done. There was a TSB that came out about it or something like that, or some kind of reading literature that I was reading that says even though you don't have a front-facing camera, sometimes you have to go in there and actually act like the vehicle does to program something that's not even there. And I'm like, what the hell is all this? I literally had to do that on, it was like an expedition or something. So I'm talking about this situation and what's going on. I'm walking him through all. He does it on his own now. He doesn't need help. He's more than capable of doing it. These are the tools and the skills that you can give them to succeed and show that they can do this other stuff. We don't always have to do that. Give them an opportunity to eat and show that they want to move up. You know, I know there's a lot of talk about lube techs, but I feel passionate about that because these young guys, they have to move up. They have to move up as well. And if you don't give them a chance to do it, they're going to stay in that quick lane. And when you see a quick lane guy that stays in a quick lane that long, the dealership is not doing their job, or the quick lane guy does not want to move up. It's one or the other. Because if you want to do it, you'll take it and you'll do it. That's a huge problem in the industry. There's a guy here that's subscribed to my channel. He's an instructional teacher or whatever. He's a senior master tech. He's been doing it for a really, really long time. And he's got an education-based program where he actually teaches stuff online. And he's such a small YouTuber and nobody knows about him. He's got like 30 subscribers, but you sit there and listen to this guy talk. He's got the weathered hands. He's got the clean old, you know, the Mr. Clean head and the beard and everything else. And you just listen to this guy talk about stuff, and it's like, man, I could just sit here and just close my eyes and listen. Just listen to him. He's one of those old-time instructor type, but aggressive at the same time, but not overly aggressive, smooth-talking guy. And that's one of the things that he even talked about on one of his videos. And I preach this all the time, is when the dealership overlooks the guys that are the lube techs and the quick lane guys, you discourage them. You drive them into a point where they don't think that they're anything more than just being a lube tech. And that's not helping a man make money. That's not helping a young man think that he can actually come up and move up. The best thing to do is you look out across the board. You know what's in your quick lane. You know the skill set. You know the guys that's trying to excel and achieve and actually do his online schooling and stuff like that and work with the other master techs in the shop that want to move up, and you work with them. You don't leave them there. You're leaving them there, it's like a form of abuse that you don't even recognize you're doing. Or maybe you do know and you just don't care. Don't leave your quick lane guys that are worth something in quick lane. Move them up. Those are the future to what your business is going to succeed monetary wise and how customers are going to be treated. And when they see that you care about them, now you're talking about something. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I took the comments off so I can focus on talking to you guys. You said, I seen a comment here on one of them Cherry Town cars, 2008 Town car, 50,000 miles. Did you see the video or the picture that I posted on the community page? The lady came in, what was it, today? I think today I pointed it out. 16,000 miles, 2011, little old lady, brand new, cherry, ice cream paint job. I mean, clean, 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 clean. Not a speck of dirt, nothing on this vehicle. Looked brand new. 16,000 miles, 2011. I'm gonna have to go back and look at my it's on one of my videos. I pinned his post to the top so everybody can see it. It's on one of my videos where I was talking about oil. It was like a what oil do you prefer? I think that was the video. It was a what oil do you prefer video. It is a pretty popular video. See, that's what we need right there. Night Out says, I have a guy who started as a mobile lube tech, and now he rides with me every day, and he tries to learn every tiny thing he can. I'll teach anyone if they want to learn. Exactly. That's what we got to do. That's how we keep this going right now, because there's a lot of guys that don't want to do none of this. They want to be, guys don't even think that being a mechanic's a good idea. Society has driven them to think that being good with your hands and mechanically savvy and technically savvy, it's something that is not necessarily thought down upon now, but we're going back to the whole mindset, oh, that's just a grease monkey again. And it's not at all. A lot of people don't understand. Let me so I know a lot about health as well. I don't know, I'm not just a mechanic or technician or whatever, or certified master tech. I know a lot about health as well, because a lot of what goes on in programming and electronics and what we deal with in the mechanical field, your body works a lot of the same way. It has inputs and outputs, right? Chemical signals that input and output that tell different things in your body what to do. I have a whole video on my other channel where I actually talk about what happens when your adrenal gland sends messages to other areas, when your pituitary gland sends messages to other areas, how the different how insulin functions, and ghrelin, and what your satiety hormones and stuff are, and how inputs and outputs are what control what goes on in your body. And the issue with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, type 2.5, there's different types of diabetes that people don't even realize. And I talk about these other things as well, right? So your body never, you have like this ultimate, there's a capacity up here that people don't even realize they haven't even tapped into yet. There's so much more we can do that we don't even realize. We have this ultimate ability to just learn and grow, and we can't physically tap into it. We don't know how to tap into it. There are some people that are just naturally gifted that start at such a young age, and they excel through life their whole entire life. They become the super kids of the master pianists at 11 and 12 and 13 years old. They were given this gift early, by accident, by happenstance. We have these gifts. We just don't know how to tap into them, right? So a lot of people think that mechanics and technicians are just these dumb people. And one day, somebody asked me to use a health analogy to explain a lazy downstream O2 sensor, or a lazy upstream O2 sensor. And I was talking about how your body likes to take T3 and turn it into T4. And one of the ways that you have issues is with iron deficiencies. And when you have a lazy, I don't know if it's a pituitary gland or how it was explained or whatever it was, this conversion process doesn't happen properly. And a lazy upstream O2 sensor won't switch fast. It'll start switching slow. And you'll see the switch slower and slower and slower, and it becomes lazy. And your downstream O2 sensor should stay pretty flat overall. You might see a slight fluctuation in it, but downstream doesn't really move. Upstream fluctuates a lot. It means a catalytic converter, when they have when one's doing one thing and the other one's doing the other, catalytic converter is doing its job. When they both are mimicking each other and they're flowing the same way, that means the catalytic converter efficiency is pretty much failed and the cat's not doing its job. Or there's No, it's just not doing its job. Regardless if it's a leak, a crack, it's not functioning properly, it's still not doing its job. It's a huge diagnostic tool. So when I look at laziness inside the body and how chemicals and stuff convert and fluctuate, and why ghrelin, a lot of people are like, why did I just eat and I'm already hungry again? Well, you have satiety hormones that say I'm full. But if you're constantly eating all the time and you're never practicing any type of fasting, you're going to become desensitized towards the natural chemicals that are released in your body. So you actually have, just like there's insulin resistance, you could have resistance, a resistance type factor to I'm full as well. Because if you have a lot of fat mass on your body, but yet you're still constantly eating all the time, your body's going to think, well, hell, I don't even know what full means anymore. I have enough fuel on my body, but I'm always eating. A lot of times computers can actually do the same thing. They can actually see a failed component for so long without you fixing it. It tries to adjust tables until it starts to think that it's normal. You know, do you remember the old block learn type system that it would do stuff like this? It would think that something was okay even when it was wrong, because computers can do things like that. Your bodies function just like computers do. All right, guys. I travel some. Y'all, we need to go to bed. Most of us need to go to bed anyway. It's midnight here. I'm gonna wind down. It's been awesome talking to you guys for the last 2 hours and 43 minutes almost now, and I appreciate every one of you. This has been amazing. I'm not addicted to the GOAT game. Your boy Chris, I just went through a whole section about 10 minutes ago on advice for new techs. You might want to go back and probably rewind this video to about 2 hours and 30 minutes and rewatch it. I shut everything off and I tried to just dump out everything that I could possibly give you. Yeah, so it's bedtime. This is no, I don't have engine parts in my living room. I have other stuff in my living room that I like to explore as a hobby that I won't talk about on here. It would get me demonetized more than likely. I do not work on Buicks. Yes, Austin, yes. That's what I'm talking about. No, I don't do just Ford. I do everything pretty much, but Ford is my go-to. Ford and Dodge anyway. All right, y'all. I'm getting off here. Good night. Thanks for this. I appreciate this. Maybe we can do this again sometime. And this is really awesome. I really appreciate this. I started when I was like 14 years old, man. I'm 35 now. Yeah, I've been on and off with dealerships, independent shops, and stuff for years now. I appreciate y'all. Good night. Let's do this again.